All right. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Onyx Report. Black Masculinist news for the day. Looks like I'm already having some slight technical issues. Had another one of those computer updates the other day, and I had not turned my computer on until now. So, knowing as it is, hopefully it won't cause too much of a problem tonight. Anyway, hope you guys are well. It's that week, man. It is that week that folks have been waiting for the longest. Some people more than others. But before we get to that, welcome. You know what I'm saying? Welcome back to the show. Appreciate those of you who came in early to support. It's most appreciated. See a number of brothers in the chat already. Shout out to y'all. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Support the show if you will, so we can continue to bring you this independent, black male thought. Y'all know what it is. So, go ahead and support in any way you can. You got the option to use Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, as you can see on the screen, or Patreon, where you can support the Onyx Report show on YouTube. You can support the Institute for Black Male Studies. Saw the commercial a moment ago where you can actually get merchandise on the website. Just go to instituteforblackmalestudies.com and click merchandise, or you can actually go to Patreon and support the show, the Institute and or the network, So if you haven't got a chance to support the network yet, please do so. You can go check out the Onyx Network. You can download it on your phone, whether that's through Android, iPhone, or Amazon Fire TV or Roku. Download it, check it out, 24 hours a day, 365, straight material from the brothers that support the channel, as well as myself. So we are trying to broaden this thing out and take it out as far as it can go. So again, support if you will. Also support Artisan MC. If you haven't been to the channel, you haven't subscribed, you needed to have done so a long time ago. You're late. So go check out Artisan MC right here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Support his show. And on Sundays, 11 a.m., usually, and he'll let me know if he's going to change up the schedule at all this weekend, but I do believe it's 11 a.m. Pacific this Sunday. He does really a master class on comics, geekdom, and no doubt he'll be going in on Panther a little bit more. Shout out to Shocks112. Appreciate the support. He said, here's your movie ticket back. I'm sure it was some BS. I never had somebody give me my movie ticket back in a donation. That's what's up. Appreciate that. I will take that. Thank you. This work comes with sacrifice, boy. I'm telling you. But let me go ahead and welcome Artisan straight up. Artisan, what's up, man? You there?
What's good, Dr. T?
You, man, how you doing?
I'm just laughing at shots. Somebody did that for me too, gave my movie ticket back. I told them I was going to spend it on some Warner Brothers stock.
I have never had anyone give me my money back, man. I'm honored. I'm honored in a way, like thank you.
Right.
Shout out to Jesse Griffin for the support. Also, shout out to Swift on the Cash App. Appreciate that. I wanted to double check before we delved in. Are you still doing a show at 11 this Sunday?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what's up. So check out Artisan MC. Make sure you do that. We'll get it going. Now, the first thing I wanted to start with, we had to get this out, the preliminaries out of the way. And I can't lie, it was more than necessary. When I came across the news this morning, it really kind of blew me away. It kind of took me by surprise. So let me go ahead and share this a little bit. There we go. So for those of you that didn't know, we got Kevin Conroy, longtime voice of Batman, dies at 66. Now, Kevin, even though I've been a Batman fan most of my life, I had to give credit when Kevin stepped in the 90s and started playing the voice of Batman, the Batman animated series. I had to give him props. He became the voice of Batman straight up. And even though he always kind of looked like something was wrong, I never really knew. So this morning it is confirmed. He did pass away at 66 due to cancer. So shout out to Kevin. He gave voice to Batman in a way that I had not heard anyone else do. So anything you want to say about this, Artisan?
Yeah, I was really shocked by that. I mean, I remember seeing him in CW's little Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, and he came back as like the Batman of Kingdom Come Batman, right?
Mm.
And I saw him, I was like, damn, that's really cool. He got to play Batman and be the voice of him, right?
Yeah.
At the same time. But I did look at him like, damn, he looked kind of sick. Like, is he that old? I didn't think he was that old, right?
Yeah.
But he looked really sickly.
Yeah.
And so when you sent me this article today and I read it, I was like, damn, okay, so it was something going on with him.
Right.
But I thought it was ironic that he died at 66, where the Adam West Batman is known as Batman 66. I said, well, that's irony on top of irony right there.
Yeah. And you made mention to me, I think privately in a text, that something else died today too, and it wasn't just Kevin
the same day. Yeah, the same day. He died yesterday? The report says he died yesterday, so I was like, yeah, something else died yesterday too. So,
yeah, that would be the Black Panther himself. The MCU Black Panther died as well. Sad to say. But yeah, so shout out to Kevin Conroy. I wanted to get that out the way. Always got to pay respect to where respect is due. And let me see. This is the last one. Come on. There we go. All right. So this one is a little different. Like I said, this will only take a second, but I think it's important to note. I'll just share it from my Facebook page. This is something Omawale Africa put up on his community tab. I just had to shout it out. Dr. Mutulu Shakur is said to be coming home. He too is suffering from cancer. So I think in December he gets out and he'll be able to spend his last days with his family. So if you're not familiar, you definitely need to look him up. But as it says, 72-year-old grandfather, respected healer and elder, was granted parole by the U.S. Parole Commission. The commission has recognized that his release poses no risk, particularly in light of his medical condition. He'll be released shortly. Mutulu is one of thousands of incarcerated older people in state and federal custody who's been repeatedly denied parole for over a decade after completing his minimum sentence. Mutulu is deeply grateful for broad expression of trust and support, and thanks everyone who has helped him over the years. We ask that he have space and time to be with the family when he's released and continue receiving medical treatment. So Mutulu is known as a political activist, family man, relative to Tupac Shakur, but was far more well-renowned before that anyway. But shout out to Dr. Shakur. So I do hope everything goes through well with that. And we don't have any unexpected negative surprises. So just wanted to put that out there. Shout out to Mutulu Shakur. So without any further ado, we're going to delve into this. Now, Artisan and I have been talking about this for years as comic heads. I know I'm a 43-year collector now. How long you been collecting, man?
Shit, almost more than that, about 45 years, I would say. But
yeah.
Who counts? I just counted in terms of enjoying it and when I found it and when I kept it as my own and started carrying that geek banner like this is who I am. This is what I like. This is what I love.
What did it mean to you the first time you found out that there was going to be a live action Black Panther?
I was excited. I mean, I was really excited. I was nervous because, mind you, we're Gen Xers. So the first time I heard about possible live action Black Panther was after Blade and Wesley Snipes was working with Marvel to try to make a Black Panther movie. Right. So when Wesley, went to jail and stuff like that, and that all broke up, I was kind of disappointed. Like, well, there was your last, best hope to have a Black Panther movie. But when the MCU started gaining prominence and they had their success with Iron Man and whatnot, and then they said, yes, we're going to do Black Panther, I was like, oh crap, well, this could look good. But I was, curious on how it would actually turn out and who was going to be the Black Panther.
Right.
And then when they cast Chadwick, I was like, okay, that's a good actor. Okay, I know who he is. That's a pretty good actor. This could actually be good. Then they added Ryan Coogler on top of it. It's like, oh, well, this is, local boy. Oh, okay, this could be even better. And it just built on layers after that. Like the cast that they assembled and whatnot was like awesome. It's like, oh, well, this could actually be good.
Right.
And sure enough, when I saw it, it was good enough for me to watch 5 times. So.
Right. People know we had our issues with the first being comic book heads, and if you didn't know, I can confirm that for you because on my blog, newblackmasculinities.wordpress.com, I actually wrote a review of the first movie, and basically, I kind of covered some of the elements that I didn't like most about it. I called it Coogler's brilliant Black Panther. And first, let me shout out to Roger Report. Appreciate that support, good brother. Hope you're well. Support the Roger Report show here on YouTube. So I called it Coogler's brilliant Black Panther, Africans, DOS, woke Black women, and oh yeah, dying Black men. And so I kind of went through a number of things. And as I wrote it, it got bigger and bigger. And the next thing I knew I was covering the history of comics altogether. I had to start it with this piece here on the screen. And this was 2 young boys who were trying to get in to see the Panther, one standing on the other's shoulders to buy tickets. And apparently this was a sincere attempt to get in to see it. This is how badly Black boys wanted to see Panther, right? Because Panther in many ways represented something that, we had not seen. The character himself was not a sidekick. He didn't, bow to anybody. He was an independent monarch who was a product of a line of Black male kings. I mean, this was, albeit written by, 2 white men, it was still an interesting foundation for a Black character in a manner we hadn't seen. Now, a lot of people don't know that this is hardly the first time you had a, major Black character being produced, but it was nonetheless significant. So I talked about the work of all Negro comics going back to 1947 with Orrin Cromwell Evans. This is the cover of that right there, one of his books. And this is important because I always hear, well, if you guys, if you're tired of Marvel and DC, just make your own. Well, understand there's been a legacy of Black men making their own. This goes back to 1947. It predates Panther and a lot of the other sidekick characters produced in Marvel and DC. But understand, right? When this came out, what actually happened? It says most are virtually unaware that Black males were purposely blocked by the Comics Code Authority. That said, there was a generations-long battle since the inception of all Negro comics in 1947 by Orrin Cromwell Evans to develop Black male superhero characters Cromwell's venture only lasted one issue because he was
Hmm.
blocked from access to the paper he needed to print the comic. Similarly, distribution would be another barrier whites use to prevent Black productions from seeing the light of day, from comics to
That's
music.
how they get milestone distribution.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about it.
No, that's how. If you watch the history of comics with Robert Kirkman, when he goes through Milestone Comics, you find out that DC was the one that blocked Milestone Comics because they had a deal with DC for distribution, and that's what DC did. DC blocked them, and that's what kind of killed their company because they couldn't get their books out to people. And then DC came back and took them over and
There
threw
we
those
go.
characters on the shelf. So it still goes on. It still goes on.
It still goes on, and I wanted to start with that in this review because I hear these flippant statements, and sometimes they'll come from other Black men that are like, we just need to be independent, and you guys just keep supporting this stuff too much. Sometimes I'll even hear it from Black women that are saying all this stuff is childish or whatever. Why is it important? Understand, there has been a multi-generational battle over the image of Black men, and Black men have always been at the forefront of that battle. Even when it came to Panther, when Black men couldn't make their own independent books and get them sold and distributed on a large scale, many young Black boys grew up and joined the comic industry as writers and artists to make characters like Panther more three-dimensional. So I say this because it's important to know the history before you jump into this whole conversation about Panther. Black men have fought to have a presence. I have a presence that's three-dimensional, that's realistic, and reflects our day-to-day reality in some way, shape, or form. So it's not just that Stan Lee, created this character and that's the end of the day. It was generations of Black men that brought Panther to life for the very Black boys that Marvel was targeting. Marvel was looking for another group to start purchasing its comics. Nothing wrong with that. But Black men fought to make that realistic. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say I was just echoing your point on that. That was facts. Like Stan Lee, where I appreciate him with the Black Panther and whatnot, he was trying to tap into an audience that was already there that he could see that was there. They wanted their own characters, and if they gave them one, they would appreciate it or eat it up in a sense. So that's just business. I'm not upset about that, but they actually did their due diligence and made a good character, not a sidekick, a goofy character.
Exactly. Now, you when you get to BET's animated Panther, I thought that was groundbreaking. It really was just kind of an animation of a printed comic. What's the brother who did that? His name is
Jamon Houston was the voice of
Reginald Hudlin. Yeah.
Reggie Hudlin.
Was it Hans? Jimon Hansu. Did the voice for Panther. Reginald Hudlin wrote the comic. It was brilliantly done. That was the Panther that was very reminiscent of the comic. And matter of fact, it was directly from the comics. So
it was a motion comic.
It was a motion. Yeah, they changed a few characters, but they did a brilliant job with it. But still, for a long-time collector, seeing live-action Black Panther, but the fact that you got this character that's developed in 1966, we never get to see a live-action version until 2018. Makes no damn sense. And to a serious black comic collector, it's offensive in a way. But when we finally get it, one of the biggest problems I had is it still wasn't the Panther that I read growing up. It still wasn't. Chadwick did a beautiful job. Shout out to Chadwick, bro. Chadwick. Oh man, I'm losing my everything today. Damn it. Damn, man. I don't want to disrespect the brother because my memory is shot today. Bozeman, but Chadwick Boseman did a beautiful job. Shout out to him. Ironically enough, he did a beautiful job when he was present in this one. It's just just had to do with the nostalgia and the brilliance of the brother. So I want to be clear. I have none but respect for Bozeman, the work he's done, the legacy he's left, and shout out to his family. I hope they're doing well despite his loss. But my problem wasn't at the performance level. It was at the writing level, right? What we saw in that first Panther for me as a longtime reader, as a father, a single father of a son who wanted to take his son to the movie theater to see a character that had inspired him as a young man, myself, right? And my son who's interested in STEM, and he wants to be a biologist. I wanted him to see a STEM genius. master tactician, master martial artist, monarch of his own nation, the most developed technologically developed society in the world, in that comic, in the Marvel universe, at least the Marvel world. I wanted him to see that. I wanted him to be inspired in a way that I was. Watching the way they wrote the Panther, they gave his number one superpower, his absolute genius, to his sister. And, for a lot of Black women, this was inspirational. They loved it. But for me, it was like watching a Superman movie with Lois having his strength in his flight. That's how I felt about watching the first Panther. As much as I loved, the outfits, and, shout out to the design of the outfits and whatnot in both movies. Sister that did that handled her business. I don't know what you thought about that. But,
no, I thought that was really good. And I thought about it this morning that it may have been missed in my reaction to the movie on the whole, but the costumes look, all but one of them look really great. That woman did do a hell of a job. And because I know what her face looks like now, because, watching that purple carpet event, she was there. Like, you did your deal, sister.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. The costumes look good. It looks awesome.
In both movies, the costume
right.
Beautiful. All of that, had to give props to that. There's no question about that. I grew up in an era where they never even knew how to film Black people well. You know what I mean? In white movies or whatnot, the skin would always look strange. So I'm living in an era now where they've got the technology. Black skin actually, is being portrayed beautifully. Those kind of subtle things some people may not appreciate, but when you're born at a certain time, you recognize those dimensions. So I did love seeing in both movies, beautiful Black people running around on screen and they're actually, filmed properly. So that looked, I appreciated that. And just so we can get the basics out of the way, is there anything else that you liked that you want to share before we delve in?
Which one, the first one or the second one, or just in general?
Either way, man. And again, just in case you missed the title, we are going into spoilers tonight. So if you don't want to see spoilers, don't watch. But we're going in. But go ahead, either one.
Costumes in this one, I really did enjoy. Okay, I really did enjoy the costumes. They looked good, all except for one costume.
You talking about this?
It's one thing to draw something on. It's one thing to draw a costume in a comic book, right? And it's another thing to bring it into the real world and figure out how it works and stuff like that.
Right.
That part looked kind of goofy. It looked really goofy and it looked off-putting because it was too much CG and not enough practical. And that's where I start to get on Marvel's case, because I understand a lot of these things were filmed during the pandemic, and so you're on sound stages a lot more, but come on, you can actually have a real costume. You can actually build a real costume if you're going to do it.
You talking about Shuri?
No, not so much Shuri. I was talking about the Midnight Angels. You know how I am. I don't want to spoil stuff. Even if we say we spoiler talking, it's still opening night though for the movie, so I don't want to spoil.
Hey man, I'm like, they know it's in the title. If they hear, they want to hear it. And they want
so the Midnight Angel costume, it looked cool sitting in Shuri's shop.
Okay.
Once you put it on somebody, it kind of looked goofy. It looked really goofy with the big eyes and stuff, but that's just me. The music in this, Ludwig, I think he's made his whole career working with Ryan Coogler. He did some awesome music in this. I liked him in the first Black Panther movie. That soundtrack, I listened to that soundtrack, I have to say, at least 50 times, over and over again, just back to back, just playing it from beginning to end. This one, I might listen to it again just to pick out all the extra notes, because it incorporated more Latin American music and stuff like that into, modern hip hop beats and stuff like that. So I want to listen to it again so I can get a better feel for it. But the music actually was good. It fit the scenes that it was in.
Right.
Performances in the first movie I thought were really strong. They were really strong. This one, well, I'm going on things I liked. Performances in the first movie were really strong.
You see why I'm trying to get out the way now.
Let's make the sandwich. Let's put the bread on there before we get to the bullshit.
That's right.
So So cinematically, it was shot really well. Both movies looked awesome. Action scenes looked like there was actually action happening, and the color palette that was used for the costumes and the building of Wakanda and everything, it popped. It looked like this is a different world than where, now I'm drawing a blank now too. It's a different world from where Thor came from. It's
Oh,
different from where Captain America came from. Wakanda looked like something completely different.
I'm on Asgard.
Advanced, but culturally rural in some aspects. It's like the marriage of those two together, which I really liked. You know, you got traditional African garb and stuff, but then again, people are wearing around technology that surpasses anything that people in the regular world are carrying, you know, and they just wearing it on their body like it's just a thing. So
Right.
there were those technical aspects that I really did like, that everything was really, really clean, advanced, but still had a cultural feel to it.
Right. Right. I'll add Angela Bassett was as beautiful as ever.
Oh
I
yeah,
like
that's
Go ahead. What?
no, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's still my old boo. That's still my old boo.
Yeah, man. And man, Angela Bassett was still beautiful. It was still beautiful to see her on screen. And you know, she's always been able to act her ass off. So she handled her business well. I don't, you know, so again, we're just covering a few of the things we liked. Bassett, I love seeing on screen the whole time. She covered it well. Whatever part she had to do, you know, she did it with class. And I take nothing from her. The last thing I'll say is when it comes to Namor. Namor, everybody pronounced as Namor throughout the whole movie.
Namor, more fish fingers.
And as much as people tried to, you know, change the name of the character, everybody in the movie called him Namor.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But you know what I was gonna say though is I actually didn't mind the Mayan kind of makeover. I didn't mind the adding of that culturally. I really didn't. The first time I saw it to now, and having seen the whole movie last night, I didn't mind that at all. I didn't find that to be a problem. I mean, my problems were again more so in how the stuff was written. So we'll get to that in a minute. But those were some of the things I liked. You know, the costuming, the music, you know, Bassett herself. Some of that. Those are things I like. Anything else you want to mention about anything?
I would add that the Namor character, that was one of my things. I didn't necessarily mind that they changed it up. I just wanted to see how they explained it. I did like seeing an aspect or a representation of Mayan culture coming to life under the sea.
Right.
But the whole name changing thing, I was like, okay, that's look, I'm about to go off. That was other agenda stuff. I thought I've been pronouncing his name all day too. Tweche. I thought he did good. I did believe that he was actually somebody to be feared. He did capture Namor's kind of asshole side, but he also captured Namor's, you know, rage. Like, oh, this boy about to go off. You know, you believe it. You can see it in his eyes. But and their costumes were like we were already talking about. They looked awesome. They looked really cool. So other than that, yeah,
we can put him on the screen. Tenoch Huerta. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Tenoch Huerta. I think I just said it correctly too. Tenoch Huerta.
Okay, so he played Namor, and then you had all the regular cast come back in.
He messing up everybody. Everybody gonna be clowning. Namor.
You know, all of that. But
do you want more? No, I want Namor.
No way. Anyway, so there all of that, you know. Let me see, there was something else you said that's so what we got here was probably the second mention of the word mutants. I think the first one was in the Captain or the Miss Marvel series or whatever. But they used the word mutants, and they explained how exactly because they didn't call them Atlanteans, and I think Artisan could probably tell you why better than I can in terms of why they couldn't use Atlantis. Did you want to mention what that was?
Yeah, it's legal stuff basically.
Right.
Basically, it's legal stuff with DC, and I believe the original creators of the Namor character, because it was before Marvel Comics was Marvel Comics. So it's like, whatever, man. I don't give a shit. What? Okay, so you couldn't use Atlantis. Okay, fine, whatever. He came from somewhere else. Okay, all right.
So they did this. They were from Talokan, right? They were from Talokan.
Talokan, yeah, Talokan.
They were underwater, they actually did an interesting job explaining how that came about, which I thought was good. They actually suggested that another meteor had landed as far as vibranium, but this time in the ocean. And it's Talokan that has access to that, and that's what actually made them able to, survive underwater. So I actually thought that was an intelligent kind of approach to that. So they introduced really the first mutant, and he calls himself a mutant. He's over 500 years old. They introduced that using vibranium, right? And that becomes the connection between the two kingdoms. Anything you want to say about that?
I thought that part was good. That was actually a clever bit of writing, because in Marvel Comics, there's vibranium in a couple of spots on the planet. So in the MCU, they brought in another source of vibranium. Okay, so there's some under the ocean, and it had the same properties as it did in Wakanda. It mixed with the sea soil, and it mutated some of the plant life down there. They gave it that heart-shaped herb type of ability, which is kind of cool. I said, okay, that's interesting. And because the Mayans are spiritual, their god, whichever one, the Kukulkan Khan, is probably the one that their mystic was praying to, gave him a vision of where to go. He basically has the same Black Panther story, which started Wakanda, happening in Talokan. That's what he did. He went and found this plant, the sea plant, brought it to the surface as glowing. He mixed it up and started feeding it to people, and it it was going to help them from their sickness, but it killed them at the same time, and ended up turning them into what we would consider the Atlanteans, but in the movie they're the Talokanians, or whatever, however you say it.
Right. And this was in response to smallpox. So the suggestion that came from European contact.
Colonizers.
They mixed in the colonizers. Just so you don't, in case you don't know, this was the Namor that I grew up with. This was early 90s, artist Jay Lee, Savage Namor. This was the character I was looking for. This is actually where DC took Aquaman more so than Marvel did. So Marvel missed an opportunity by not grabbing on to Jason Momoa earlier. And and introducing Namor along these lines, that might have been really well done. But I wasn't really upset with the thematic aesthetic design of Namor in this movie. But I'm just saying, all the popularity Aquaman has could have been Marvel's had they latched on to this version of Namor, again from the early 90s. But
see that just for me, the little trivia on that is their fault. That's their fault initially, because you realize, if you've been watching all of these Marvel characters that have gotten bought by other companies, Fox was pushing towards a Namor when they did their first Fantastic Four movies. The second movie by Tim Story was leading to an Atlantis kind of show up, of a Namor showing up. And I point this out every time. When that movie was ending and Sue and Reed got married, they were rushing off to Venice, because Venice was being flooded, being drowned by water. They were going to inspect it. That was the lead in for Namor. They were already teasing it. They've been teasing Namor since second Iron Man movie, where you see the map, and then the spot in the Atlantic is one of the hot spots that Nick Fury is watching. Right. They've been teasing Namor. They dragged their feet and wasted their time. And I would say primarily they did it because they were trying to push all this BS that we got in this one, the same stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Let me come back.
Okay, so we've covered the preliminaries. Let's get to meat to this shit. So
meat and potatoes.
I went to see it the day of. I wasn't planning to, but I changed my mind last minute, and Artisan was kind enough to move up, because I think you were going to go see it this Saturday or tomorrow, but you went.
I was going to go. Yeah, I was supposed to see it tonight.
Okay.
Actually, 4 minutes from now, I was supposed to see it initially, but because you were going to see it that night and you were going to do your show, I said, Okay, fine. I'll go see it. I'll go see it.
So I
We can
appreciate
talk.
your sacrifice. So shout out to
I
Artisan.
appreciate yours. I
And
appreciate yours. You
now,
took your son with you too, right?
no, hell no, he didn't want to see it. He was like,
Oh, really?
no. He's like, I
Oh,
don't want to see that mess. So I was like,
oh,
I ain't mad at you. So
oh,
I
you have to go solo.
go, and 5 minutes into the damn movie, T'Challa's gone.
Yeah.
You don't now. First of all, you don't even get to see him. You don't get to see him
No.
at all. They just kind of
But
mention him being ill. But
oh,
go
you
ahead.
get to see him and all the pictures and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
get to you get to see images of him, but yeah, you don't see him at all, which is I thought it was kind of BS, to
Yeah.
be honest. Like I don't get to see him right now. I was like, okay,
You don't get to
okay,
see him at all. What
yeah,
you see is you see Shuri trying to come up with a cure, in the first few minutes of the film, and then a couple of seconds later, it's announced that he's gone. And then you see a funeral, casket, which is strangely enough in the there's a kind of a private ceremony, and then they open it up to Wakanda. But in the private ceremony, it's like 90%, 95% women. It's just it all dressed in white, and again, the clothing is beautiful. The ceremony, the clothing, all of that is gorgeous. But this is why I really developed this idea. Some of this shit is like pretty poison. That's what I call it, pretty
mm-hmm.
poison. It's like eating the most velvety, moist chocolate cake that's laced with cyanide. And
Right.
you can take in these movies. I don't care if you're talking about Lovecraft Country. I don't care if you're talking about Woman King. I don't care which of these films you want to take. They can look beautiful. Hell, as a kid, the first time I saw The Color Purple, I thought it looked beautiful. But the content of what's in those films, what's in the stories, what undergirds how the story is written may take you years to figure out long after you've digested it. So here I'm watching again, a beautiful setting, great music, but the character that I grew up on, that I still didn't get in the first movie, I come to the second movie hoping to get something more about him. He's dead in the first couple minutes, and I don't even get to see him. You know what I mean? Now they did an homage twice, at the beginning and the end, for Chadwick, which was appropriate. It was well understood. But I'm of the recast T'Challa crew, right? I grew up watching superheroes where the best actors died at some point, and they had to be replaced for the character, right? So you don't lose Superman because Christopher Reeve passes away. You know what I mean? You don't lose Batman because somebody got old. These characters get to be re-envisioned. The very first time we get T'Challa since 1966, he's not the genius, brilliant scholar that I knew him to be. We get this other kind of T'Challa, but then we don't even get to see him more than once in his own series. And we'll delve more into that as we go. So the first thing that pissed me off was in the first 5 minutes. That was the send-off to him. Do you have any other thoughts about that?
I thought it was, I wouldn't say in bad taste, but I thought it was indicative of what you were going to see. That if this movie is supposed to be, an homage to Chadwick and his legacy or whatever, why the hell would you not even at least show him to us as the audience one more time so we can say goodbye? I'm really trying to wrap my brain around. Did you think it'd be too traumatic or something like that for us to see him dead on a table or something? I mean, what the hell? I was like, it doesn't even make sense.
They could have gone another route too. They could have just said he disappeared in the blip and he was the only one that didn't come back. You know what I mean?
That wouldn't work because you saw him come back at Endgame.
Well, that's
right?
True. You did. Yeah.
You saw him come back at Endgame, but you still have to explain this mysterious virus that killed him that nobody could figure out. Even the most advanced civilization on the planet couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with him. I'm like, what?
But you made an interesting point when you and I talked about that privately, about the heart-shaped herb, the panther himself, and his natural body response to a virus. Can you go over that for the audience? What were you saying?
So the heart-shaped herb, the easiest way to explain to people, the heart-shaped herb functions like the super soldier serum.
Right.
Anybody with the heart-shaped herb in them heals. They heal quickly. They have a healing factor,
Right.
which means there wasn't a virus that could have killed him. There wasn't one. The heart-shaped herb would have healed him because if you remember the first movie, they gave him the heart-shaped herb to bring him back from near death.
Mm-hmm.
It brought him back from near death, just ingested it. So my question is, he has the heart-shaped herb in his bloodstream. It's in his body. What made him sick to kill him?
Yeah.
What? Did you analyze that? I mean, come on, you got super smart little sister right there. You couldn't figure it out? What?
And anything that would kill somebody with a heart-shaped herb in him like that would have taken out at least 3/4 of Wakanda as far as the virus is concerned. Like,
exactly. But no, he's the only one who got it.
And he's the only one. And don't nobody know what it is, you know.
Yeah, nobody knows.
So
like, talk about McGuff. Like,
I thought that part was horribly done. And you know, they could have handled that a whole lot of different ways, but the way they went about it was just ridiculous. So from there you got, you get the funeral scene, and this is all kind of transitioning into the whole Queen of Wakanda, who is, the queenship goes back to T'Challa's mother, played by Angela Bassett. And she is, she's heading into the UN. You saw a bit of this in the trailer, and she's of course beautiful. She looks great. She's beautiful. She's very commanding as far as that's concerned. But again, most of this movie, you would think Wakanda is at least 85% female.
Yes.
You when you do see men, they're in the background. When you do see them, there's only a couple of men that actually. They're silent, and you only had a couple of them that had regular speaking lines, right? So you had M'Baku, you had the CIA agent Martin Freeman played, and Namor, right? Namor. Those are really the only 3 regularly speaking male characters. For the most part, from the CIA to Wakanda, it was all women.
Yeah,
it was all women. And it's interesting to note in the first movie, the only time so M'Baku's area of Wakanda is considered a problem, right? They position it as a problem, and M'Baku is the face of that, right? So you have this male enemy kind of vibe. And then, by the time you get to this one, we look at Talokan, right? Led by Namor, and they're the problem. And it's, again, led by a male figure. The subtext to this is that the society that you really want, that's supposed to be the standard, is female led. Right. So you still get that kind of thing coming at it again, because now Wakanda is more female than it was in the first movie. You had a couple of males on the leadership council, but the army, the leadership council, just walking through Wakanda, the majority of the people you see is women. So the subtext is not only women, but Black women. Right. Again, they're Green Gorilla has talked about this a number of times. We have this kind of Victorian idea that which is female is inherently more pure, more just, more naturally good, right? And then you add that to these feminist ideas that women are stronger, better, smarter, faster. I mean, the whole bionic, man kind of narrative. And this film kind of doubles down on that. Give me your thinking on that. Did you notice any of that for yourself?
Yes, because I say this, we were talking about it last night, that first movie you saw the Dora Milaje, and there's not a lot of the Dora. It's not. They're not the main military force. They're just the King's Guard, right?
Yeah.
So I'm watching this and I'm thinking, there's 5 tribes that make up Wakanda.
Right.
You mean to tell me all 5 of them damn tribes now are just women? What happened to the rest of the border tribe? What happened to the rest of the Riverlands tribe? Where's the rest of the miners? Where's the rest of the men? I'm like, come on, tell me something.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand you were filming this during COVID, but you couldn't CG generate no men either? Come on, man. Where the dudes at?
None.
And this is supposed to identify with here.
And this is why I started the review tonight covering a little bit about the history of comics, because this was a genre that was mostly for boys, and having grown up reading comics, you didn't really see girls in the comic book shop a whole lot. And I'm not saying that their presence now is somehow a bad thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this is a long fought genre for boys, and for it to have almost nothing for the boys to respond to hurt my heart. Not only because I'm a father of a son, but I'm also one of those boys who grew up, who already was barely getting enough, kind of feedback in terms of wanting to see strong black males doing things. But now to see this generation get nothing, it just really, really frustrated me, because this movie was supposed to, both movies really were supposed to, on one way level or another, target black boys. So again, it's not just that you have a superhero, he's a genius who's in STEM. Now, I will be bringing people up in a little bit later after we cover some of this. So, for those who want to pop up, make sure you stick around. But he's a STEM genius. How inspirational is that for boys? We know that when it comes to black boys and education, we got 10% by the 8th grade that are literate, and 12% as far as reading and math. How important can these types of representations be to inspire boys? But instead, after the first Black Panther, you even go so far as to create scholarships in relation to the film and give them to girls, and have the female actors show up at an award ceremony to give them to girls. You completely eliminated boys on the first go run. And after the complaints that we had, that Shuri takes his intelligence and gets to demonstrate for girls how brilliant black women can be, leave nothing for the boys. After hearing those complaints, you know what happened in the second movie? We got one line about how T'Challa introduced science to Shuri, but then we got another female genius. So now you got Shuri and Riri, and I think Riri's at MIT when we see her in the movie, and she's swimming laps around her professors, and she's got other students paying her to do projects for her because she's just so brilliant. And it's like, damn, so we can't get one black male brilliant character in a brand, in a product that was designed for black males, and the lead character was the most brilliant of them all. He's one of the top 10 intellects on the planet. We can't even get one in any of these
top, top 5 intellects on the planet. His peers are Reed and Dr. Doom. That's who his peers are.
And he created a whole branch of physics in the comics. That's not the T'Challa we ever got to see on screen. And surprisingly, in the sequel, we get even less.
Right. It's an afterthought in the second movie. That's why I was really pissed off, is that, okay, I get this entrance with Chadwick, with T'Challa. I don't even get to see T'Challa in the movie, right? And then the rest of the movie goes on. He is an afterthought and not even mentioned at all in this. At all. He's not. It's not his story. It's not about the grieving of him. They don't even say his name. It's just he just gone. It's about all these people now. And then get to the end, and now you want to show it to me again. Like, why do I care at this point? So what? What, you just trying to pull on my heartstrings? No, come on, man.
And maybe this is me, but they really, I think in light of the criticism that they were getting, because the recast T'Challa movement has been pretty loud. It's been pretty loud since it was announced that T'Challa wouldn't be back. I think in response to that, they did a few things. One of the things they did is they doubled down on this remembrance of Chadwick, right? They used it almost like a shield. And in a way, it was kind of grotesque, because they kept trotting him out, to deflect from criticisms. And they even put out articles, saying, oh, we were so emotional, that's why we couldn't do it. And I'm saying, this is bullshit. This has nothing to do with Chadwick. You're using Chadwick's memory to deflect criticism from how you handled this, but you didn't do this with General Ross, who I think was played by John Hurt, who just passed away. They replaced him quick, fast, in a hurry. They didn't do this with other characters, right? But they did this with the one genius black male we did have.
That was my main complaint.
And he doesn't even come back in the second. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was my main complaint of this when Kevin Feige first announced that they were going to not recast T'Challa. I came out and said that shit. It's like, no, you need to recast this character immediately. You need to recast him. The character is too important. The character of T'Challa is too important for you to sit on the shelf and just say, well, he had a good run. That's it. We can't touch that again because of Chad's memory. I'm like, bullshit. Yeah. Come on, stop it. Like, don't even start trying to push this up that stream. Right. No way.
Right.
No.
So again, my problems, I knew my problems before the film even started, because I knew what they did with the story. So again, it came down to the portrayal of black men, the absence of black men, the denial of T'Challa's brilliance, the denial of his very presence, the decision to not recast. All of those things were fundamental issues to me, on top of the fundamental issues I had with the first film that had to do with the diminished portrayal of T'Challa and black men in general. Because I kept saying this, and if you checked, I did an interview with Dr. Dunbar on his channel, and he's been putting up clips of it on various platforms. But one of the things I said about that was, Wakanda meant a lot symbolically for black folk who are into comics, because Wakanda is not literal Africa. It is filtered through the imagination of an African-American group who didn't know where they came from on the African continent. This was pre-DNA. This was pre all of that. So for the most part, you were lucky if you could identify your family lineage beyond your grandparents. A lot of black folk I knew could barely tell you who their great-grandparents were, right? So when you start talking about all these other groups you interact with at various places, at work or at school, you're dealing with Asian folk, you're dealing with, various types of white folk. And these people can talk about their family lines going back centuries. And most of us couldn't make it past our grandparents, let alone where we came from on the African continent. Wakanda became part of an attempt to idealize a certain memory or certain projection about Africa and what could have been if slavery never occurred. Wakanda is a product of that diasporan African-American imagination. So to take that idea, diminish the Panther, Wakanda was even kind of diminished. I mean, if anything, you get the sense in both movies that Wakanda is a city, not a country, because they just have these small little locations. But on top of all of that, you're going to diminish it, and then you're going to take the leading figure from it and diminish him. That had a huge impact, especially, I think, on black males. And black boys never really got to develop a sense of belonging to any of it, because none of it was designed to speak to them. None of it. It wasn't designed to speak to them at all. So even when I look at, and you can speak to this better than I can, when I look at the toys and the Halloween outfits and all the stuff that's supposed to, have come about in terms of this film, how much of it do you see that directed at black boys?
Shit. Your Panther claws, that's about it. If you want to say that's for boys, it's not. None of it is geared towards boys, and this has been my problem with how this movie has gone about. All of it seemed like a just taking of what black men had supported and created and represented them, and it's just a wholesale snatching them. That's all it is. Your sister came in and just took your toys, and now they have to be hurt. That's it. That's all that happened. Just came and took all your toys. Like, what did you do to my Panther? You painted it pink. That's all that happened. And it's messed up in a sense, because you look at the first movie. Yes, some of those characters were in the first movie, but the idealization of Wakanda is what it could be for all of us, right? What it could be for all of us as black people together, men, women, young, old, the respect that was there, the family that was there, that whole structure that was there, that it was the best of all of us, brothers and sisters all together, right? Now you get to this next movie, it's like, where's the guys? And forget all that tradition, forget all of that stuff, whatever the hell else. I mean, because I'm watching it, and I was thinking about it today. I'm watching this, that, Shuri just did the same thing that Korra did in the Avatar series. Yeah. You just cut everybody else off from the legacy. That's what the hell you did. So is this the feminist push? I mean, you're better at explaining the intersectional stuff than I am, but I'm like, is this just the feminist push that you always supposed to destroy the legacy and the connection to the ancestors when you come in and take over? That all that stuff needs to go? That's what I left the movie really being upset. And I had to think about going to sleep and thinking about it, and waking up today thinking about it. It's like, it really just cut off all the legacy. That's all it was. Yeah. It was a wholesale jack. I mean, they really did just come in and jack your shit. Like, wow.
So, in case you don't recall, so at the end of the first Panther movie, all the heart-shaped herb is burned up by Killmonger. So they don't have that anymore, which suggests after T'Challa there can be no more Black Panther. So at the onset of the second film, right, you have T'Challa gone. You have of course, his father died in Civil War or whatever, and now you have Shuri. And Shuri and Ramona, I think Angela Bassett's character, are the only two left in the bloodline, right?
Right.
And so this is where you end up having this scenario where there's only two of the royal bloodline that are left. So Shuri is hyper protected, and at the same time, she's mourning the loss of her brother. She's frustrated. She's unable to connect because she's so angry about what happened. So she's kind of closed off in a particular way, and so that's the kind of setting for this. Now, the last thing I want to say before we really delve back into the movie, I had a conversation with a mother of a son, and she came into one of my chats on Facebook, and she said, "I don't know what you guys are so upset about. This is a Black movie, and it just needs to be celebrated because it's Black." And what I tried to explain to her, especially as somebody with a son, is that there are very few properties that you'll be able to find that are designed to inspire Black boys. And to have those properties just arbitrarily given to a group that didn't even ever really demonstrate an interest in comics, and to have that group excited to take over and have no respect for what that could have meant for their own boys, whether it's their sons, their brothers, their fathers, doesn't matter. The fact that that could happen in and of itself was disrespectful on a level I'd never seen. So I actually wrote a piece a while back where I tried to explain some of this. I don't know how many people saw it. Again, this was on my blog piece, and you can see here where I had it. I called it, "So What's Black Men's Real Problem with the Black Panther Films?" And you can see all these images of a Black Ken doll. And the reason for that, as I said in the piece, I said, I remember, I'll just read it real quick. I said, all right, let me see here. Okay, so just like the scores of Black boys who grew up to be writers and artists in comic books to fight this battle, Black women fought wars over Barbie back in the day. Girls cried and mothers fought for Black girls to be represented and honored as beautiful in the Barbie doll line. But what if Barbie, acknowledging its racist past against Black girls' image, released a whole line of Black Ken dolls of every shade and size and virtually ignored women altogether by making only one Black Barbie doll, whom they quickly killed off after about 4 years? Who they based the design on passed away. Shout out to Chadwick Boseman, 2018, as far as Panther. And this was Barbie's so-called apology for 60 plus years of discrimination against Black girls. And then to top it off, Black men danced in the streets over it and celebrated themselves as the new Ken dolls and told Black girls to woman up because it's about time Black Ken was celebrated, ignoring the work and historical frustration of Black women over Barbie's treatment of them. That's what's happening with the Panther. That's what I tried to explain. At the end of the day, you can't just arbitrarily take away what has meaning for people just because they've decided to target you. And so that's one of the reasons I just wanted to put that on the board. But so back to the film, right? So you have this moment at the UN, right, where the Queen of Wakanda is basically pointing out the various Western nations that are still trying to steal vibranium. And in so doing, they send in an all SEAL team in one particular instance to a Wakandan, what would you call that? A rig?
It was an outreach center. Yeah,
Outreach
it was outreach centers.
So you have the Dora Milaje that take out this team of SEALs. Now, they're, pretty much standard. You can expect everything you expect to happen happens. I mean, they're kicking these dudes' asses left and right. It is what it is. Again, as Artisan said, there was only supposed to be a handful of Dora if you read the original comics. They were like the president's security guard, but somehow by the time we get to the movies, they're the whole damn army, half the security council, the whole deal. So they're beating up all these SEALs left and right, and they march them into the UN in handcuffs. So you have these big buff white dudes with handcuffs on and these little bald Black women with spears, marching them in. And when they stand up to, when the Queen stands up and all the Wakandans stand up at the UN, to big up Wakanda, majority women, almost as if Black men don't exist. Any thoughts about any of that as far as you were concerned?
Um, yes, I went back and I was thinking about that scene, that whole fight, and one of the things that was ringing not true to me was that, well, while Ramonda's speech at the UN was good, they were kind of calling Wakanda on the carpet to complain about some shit,
Right.
about not having vibranium and them having all the vibranium and not saying anything about it. I don't remember Wakanda saying anything about vibranium to anybody. The other thing is they threatened Wakanda with isolationism, and I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense
No.
to threaten Wakanda with isolationism when they had been isolated for hundreds of years. They just recently opened their borders to tell you, look, we're not these little goat herders you thought we were. We actually got money. We actually have power. We actually have technological advancements and stuff. So the rest of the UN trying to threaten them with, you'll be isolated. I'm like, what difference would that make to Wakanda? They had been isolated.
Yeah.
You need them. They don't need you.
Don't
that what's that?
I was gonna say, don't threaten me with a good time. I mean, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what you mean? We'd have to close our doors again? Oh my God. What will we ever do with ourselves? Like,
that's
get
like
the hell out of here. That's not a threat.
That's like sending an agoraphobic home as punishment. It's like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna lock you in. Please do. Will you use big locks?
You know, I'm good. So
yeah, that going back and thinking about that scene, that bothered me, and I wrote it in my notes, and that's why I went back and looked at it. It's like, isolationist Wakanda, how is that a threat?
It's not.
And how is, since they've been defending vibranium for all these years, why would any other country trying to steal vibranium be a threat to them? That you're not threats to Wakandans.
Right.
So the whole argument is kind of specious in a way, where it undercuts the scene that Angela Bassett is having, where you see Wakanda taking charge and saying, no, we are not weak. Well, you never were weak to these people. Never.
Right.
One dude took over. He was ready to wipe out the whole world.
Yep.
With your war dogs, I guess we lost all those men too. You know, we're going to go wake up in they sleeper cell status and just start taking over cities. You were never a threat to Wakanda. Wakanda was never weak. So this whole scene is a good scene for Angela Bassett, but it's undercut by the fact that it doesn't make any goddamn sense story-wise. It's like, they were never weak, king or not.
Right.
They never were weak. And they proved it when they finally opened their borders and put outreach centers out there. We never weak, and we got technology you can't deal with. So you can try to get some vibranium if you want to, but
then also
see your funeral.
So also, we don't really hear anything about those outreach centers that they created in the first movie. That just kind of falls to the wayside. It's not.
Yeah, that was the only one you saw was the one at the French SEALs, which they're not called SEALs if they're French, but they're the ones who broke into that one in Mali.
Well,
that's what it was. That was one of the outreach.
No, hold on though. I'm talking about the ones that they were opening up in Oakland for the kids. You know what I mean? At the end
you don't see those.
You don't see any more about that. You don't hear anything more about it. But the crux of the story from there is that, you know, as I kind of hinted at before, there, you know, these Western governments are looking in the ocean for vibranium. They recognize they can't deal with Wakanda. Wakanda ain't sharing vibranium, so they're looking in the ocean. And somebody built a machine, the only one in the world that can detect vibranium. And this is where you get the introduction of Riri Williams, who what's her I forget what her character's name is. I actually never collected
Ironheart. Ironheart.
Yeah. So this is the 5'1" version of the new version of Tony Stark.
Yeah, no shit.
Right.
19-year-old, 5'1".
I couldn't figure out if she needed her diapers changed, but she was terribly adorable. I'll give her that. But it was like, she's this little thing. But she she designs this machine that can detect vibranium on a dare, right? Because the professor told her she couldn't do it, so she did it. And even Shuri recognizes that this thing is half built out of junk and then half built out of new equipment, right? So once this is found by Namor and his people, they come to Wakanda and they basically say, look, we got to shut this down. We can't be found, right? We can't be found, and they require Wakanda's help. and doing this. And what it ends up breaking into is that this, this little, FBA black girl is going to die at the hands of the Talokans if Shuri doesn't protect her. She's the only one that can build this machine. As a matter of fact, the United States government kind of stole it from her.
Right.
Just kind of took it, and they were using it at the bottom of the ocean to find vibranium, which is something that Talokan and Namor and all of them have in abundance. So that kind of ends. That's what brings, Riri Williams into this whole kind of story. So now you get this international super black girl connection where they all come together, right? So they go to find her at MIT, I guess it is, and so you got Riri, you got Shuri, and then you got Okoye all getting together. So again, the only brothers you see who actually have some speaking lines is like M'Baku. And all together, how many, his presence, would you say, 10, 15 minutes tops?
Maybe. I usually don't track that kind of stuff, but you see him only a few times in the shit. And the number of times that you saw him in it was basically telling as to why the same thing they did on that purple carpet. You barely saw him. You saw him floating around, but they talked to him down with the regular folks, and that was it. You don't get no main stage time.
No.
And that's basically what happened here. He rarely got any main stage time.
Although I will say he was engaging enough, whether it was embarrassing or whether it was interesting or funny, he would engage you as long as he was on the screen. He captured your attention on one level.
He did.
He captured.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And then you didn't see him for a good period of time. So this only fixated on the women over and over and over again, right? So now you have the Talokans that are coming after Riri, and the whole kind of idea. And from there, Namor kidnaps Shuri, takes her to the underwater kingdom. Anything you want to share about those transitions?
Riri's first suit when Shuri and Okoye go back to her workshop to get her laptop computer and whatnot, and the dumb thing that she has all the information to build this unit on her laptop that she just leaves in this shop powered on and everything else. And in that shop, here is her first suit. I'm like, this looks stupid. And when they showed the suit initially, like, I've been not looking at spoilers, right? So every time people were trying to show, oh, it's a picture of Riri's Mark I. I don't want to see it. I'll wait to see it in the movie. Saw it in the movie. It looked like shit. It looked like a knockoff Ripley from Aliens, power lifter suit. I'm like, I mean, the FBI kicked in the door. She's standing there in that suit with flesh all exposed. I said, why didn't they just shoot her ass?
Yeah,
I said, it's not an Iron Man suit. She's just standing there with a roll cage harness on her chest. Shoot her in that face.
Yeah. Her legs and arms were open,
all exposed. No helmet, no breathing apparatus, nothing. And she just off and flying. I'm like, get the hell out of here. I'm like, this looks so stupid. This is dumb. Like,
well, she's been building this suit in isolation for years, but when she finally gets Wakandan tech and builds the full-on version of her suit, to me, it looked like something a kid with crayons would have drawn on a piece of paper. Like, it just didn't, kind of like the Midnight, what's the name? What's the Midnight character?
Midnight Angel.
Midnight Angels. All the suits look childish and just poorly designed to me.
They were. I tell you what I thought about for all my anime fans. You know what that Riri suit that with Wakandan tech looks like? It looks like a hard suit from Bubblegum Crisis.
Ooh,
but bulky, but bulkier.
Uh-huh.
Hella hard ass right angles, like they're trying to make it stealth or something. It looks stupid, dude. It looks absolutely stupid. It would have looked better sitting in a Gundam movie.
Somebody said
once again after your sister took it and repainted it.
Oh,
like, it gotta be pink.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad you made it pink.
With a big heart on the front, it was just.
I was waiting for Bumblebee to show up when I saw that shit. Like, wow.
Now we.
Oh, wow.
Let me see. We got to get to Nakia. So I've had a problem with this character since the first movie. She's central to this film, so we got to get to her. So Nakia, played by Lupita, what's her name? Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o. first of all, she has some curves. Shout out to the curves.
Man, goodness, yeah. Shout out to the yams.
Salute.
Shout out to the yams, boy.
You know, but aside from that, I never liked her character. In the first movie, to me, she played T'Chaka like a sucker, like T'Challa like a sucker.
Yeah.
It was like he was always, fawning after her, and she was, always kind of on some, my work is more important. I'm over here, and he's flitting over here and there, just doing whatever. And he was following around like a lovesick puppy the whole time. And so it's interesting because, at the end of the first movie, he's trying to get her to stay in Wakanda, and she's still kind of pushing him away. By the time you get to this movie, she over here talking about T'Challa was her world. I'm like, are you serious? You played him like a sucker the entire time. It actually made him look bad. When's the last time you saw a monarch begging for a woman's attention?
Look, I watch a lot of Game of Thrones. I ain't seen that shit yet.
You know what I mean?
I haven't seen it yet. That's not standard. It's not standard for anybody, any monarch in power. He's not chasing after no chick like that. And if he is, that's usually the downfall of the kingdom.
Exactly. So she's, in both movies, she don't ever want to be in Wakanda. That's the interesting thing. In both movies.
Right.
Now she's living in Haiti. She's got a little school out there, and at a particular point, they need her to go help, get Shuri out of Talokan, which is, of course, deep in the ocean, because Shuri has disappeared and the queen doesn't know where she is. Do you want to kind of tell anything about that transition, that part of the story, kind of break it down?
Yeah, the transition for that part of the story is, since we're doing spoiler talk, the reason she is in Haiti is because if you guys remember from the first movie, Nakia was a spy. She was a war dog spy. So she was always off in other countries doing other shit. Now, the reason she's in Haiti is because she left Wakanda after that last battle with Thanos. She pieced out for some reason, and nobody knew why. She just left, right? She just left. I guess she left the war dogs. I don't know how you do that shit, but she just went and set up stakes in Haiti and started a school, and she's doing some other stuff. She ain't thinking about no Wakanda shit. So it's been like 6 years since when you get to this part in the movie, you see her. It's been 6 years. They haven't seen her for 6 years. So whatever she's on, there's a reason why she is there in Haiti, hanging out, being school mom. I thought, she was supposed to be Oprah or something like that while she was there. I'm like, what the hell is she doing? But there's a reason why she's there.
Yeah. So now this is a critical point in the film. She successfully finds Shuri. Now, Shuri has been in private conversation with Namor. Namor kidnaps her, takes her down to the ocean, shows her the city, shows her the culture, explains how the Talokans came to be, their version of the heart-shaped herb. He gives her up the whole game and explains all of that to her. And while she and Riri are captured down there, it's Nakia that goes down and gets them out, right? So she gets them out, and in doing so, she kills one of the women who's servicing Shuri and Riri in the little jail they're in, right? And from there, this ends up being the cause of the invasion of Wakanda, right? The fact that in their escape, someone dies, and so from there, they know Namor is coming to Wakanda to wage war, and he does. What were your thoughts about the war scene, with the invasion of Wakanda? What did you think about that?
Too damn easy. I told you my thoughts on this whole war thing, that the reason why the world popped off is because Nakia, as a soldier of Wakanda, was given the order by her queen to do whatever was necessary to bring her daughter back, right? That she was authorized to do whatever. So Nakia went in there on a kill mission. She was putting people down to try to bring Shuri back. And one of the women was still alive, and she wanted to help the woman, but Nakia told her no and pulled her away. Now, all she needed was a Kimoyo bead to put on that woman to try to help her, but Nakia pulled her away like, no, we need to go right now. I was like, dude, just put the bead on her and y'all can peace out. I mean, it was something completely avoidable, but it was the fault of the queen, Ramunda, at that time. She basically caused the war. It was her emotional ass actions that caused the whole freaking war. You didn't need to kill those people. Shuri wasn't in no danger right now. She wasn't. She was good.
Yeah, and that was
I could see somebody saying 110-pound Nakia. Well, she got curves, man, so that might be 120. Just saying. But she was in there like she was in there with the shotgun bucking people. She just came in there on a mission.
Right.
She was doing a dizzle. She was giving that order. She in there, you know, whatever it takes to bring them back. But it was only 2 women. She could have kicked their ass. Last movie I saw her kicking grown men's ass, at least 3 of them in a club. She couldn't take out these 2 little fish chicks. Come on, man. It was just dumb. It was dumb the way that went down because it was over emotional actions that you knew what the outcome. You had to have known what the outcome was going to be. And if you didn't, that makes you just an inept damn leader.
Well, and this is something we saw both times with both Queen Ramonda and Shuri. You saw this kind of emotional leaning. So it's an interesting thing in a film where you have this all women in charge kind of dynamic. One of the ideas that we've heard for years is this argument about whether or not women in leadership is a good or a bad thing, or women too emotional. But in this movie, where you have all women in charge, you actually do see emotionality. You see Queen Ramonda making decisions purely based off emotion, and then you see Shuri doing the same, right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting to kind of see.
I've said that. I believe that women can be leaders, but I also know that women are emotional. They're more emotional than men at times, right? Because men have to think about everybody else. Women only think about them for the most part, right? But this is why, because you'll go to war over some goofy shit that won't matter. And as soon as I saw that scene, that's the first thing I was thinking. It's like, and this is how the world will burn up if somebody like that is just in charge. Because you will go to war over some emotional shit. Yeah. No reason at all.
Queen Ramonda basically caused a war over getting her daughter back, and it cost her life. That was one of the surprises I didn't expect, where you actually have Ramonda, Angela Bassett's character, dying in the midst of this invasion, and Namor is running circles around everybody for the most part, right?
He was. Yeah, they didn't need everybody else. He was doing a good enough job on his own. It made Wakanda look really incompetent, and it doesn't play well against the forces of Thanos and the Black Order. Came to Wakanda and they was getting held down by Jabari, border tribes, river tribes. Everybody was out there handling their business against outriders and the Black Order.
Right.
One dude and a couple of fish people showed up and was kicking the shit out of them. With no problem. Right. There was no issue. Not stressed. I'm like, this is bull crap. This is absolute bull crap. And all it was, honestly, Dr. T, to me, all it was an elevation of a new culture over the Wakandan culture that you had in Wakanda's movie. That's all it was. Because everything that you thought Wakanda was, Talokan became greater than them in that respect. Even though they didn't explain anything about, well, what kind of technology do these people have? How did they develop any technology underwater? What they got? All you saw them using was spears and water bombs, basically water balloons. That was it. Oh, and they're stronger. Okay, yeah, they live under the water. That makes sense. But what else they got?
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that you had, the most dominant black male figure in the film got his ass kicked with one punch.
Yeah, that was the only part I would have to go back and think. That was the only part I said, what?
Yeah.
That did get an emotional reaction out of me. It's like, get the fuck, and it was get the fuck out of here. And I washed my mouth because I told you I had a kid 3 seats down from me who can't even read the screen watching the movie. And I said it loud as hell, like, get the fuck out. that was I think that's probably where I was really done with this shit after that. I was like, get the fuck out of here.
So you already have an absence of black male characters. The one black male character that you do see gets knocked out in one punch, and his whole chest plate is all broken open because of that.
Yeah, chest plate.
But hold on. The other thing I'll say is when you do actually see him, he's in this movie, he's now on the leadership council of Wakanda. So you remember in the first one, he was just a king of his own, section of Wakanda. Yeah. Now he's on the leadership. But when he comes in for the first time, he's kind of like a petulant child, and they kind of got to dismiss him and discipline him like one at various points. In that, I don't know if you remember that in the when he comes in on the leadership council meeting, and he's kind of being snarky here and there and that kind of thing. It's not
he is, but this is where I give it to that character for having a little bit of a snark with him, is that you have to remember that Wakanda is made up of 5 separate tribes. The one tribe that didn't want to go with the technology bullshit that everybody else was on was the Jabari tribe. He leads the Jabari tribe.
Thank you. Yeah, Jabari.
Right. So after that Infinity War and Endgame and whatnot, Black Panther and M'Baku kind of mended that gap of pushing the Jabari away. So now it became 5 members of the council again, like it should have been the whole time.
Because
so he has a right to act kind of petulant with them because it's still new for them. It's only been like 6 years after they've been, kind of set aside for like what, a couple hundred. 100 years, he said.
Here, the Jabari saved the throne in the first movie.
Yeah, they did.
Even though technically, Killmonger won it. He won it fair and square. He won it.
Yeah, and
they saved the throne, and so he's part of the group now. But he may have had the right in your assessment to be a child. But again, when you only got one brother in the whole film that actually has speaking lines, to me, it was already a problem. But
there was the second one. You have Plate Lip Man, who's the leader of the other tribe. I believe it's the River Tribe, Nakia's tribe, right? He's there. He has a couple of lines too, but
but see, the fact
has to do with a plate in his lip.
The fact that you have to say that though is already part of the problem. It's like, well, this guy had 2 lines, and then this guy had a line.
He had a few lines.
It's so minute that it's ridiculous, but. So it's after this where you see M'Baku become more of an advisor to Shuri. He takes an advisory role, and he says he does so after, making a promise to T'Challa. So you kind of see him shift into this kind of advisory kind of thing for a minute, and then whatever. But so from there, Shuri is at this point where she's frustrated. Her mother has passed. T'Challa's gone. Wakanda is under threat. Most of the country has to go to the Jabari land, to survive and figure out what to do next. And Shuri
to hide out from the fish people in case they come back.
Which I think they said they were going to come back in a week or something of that nature. So
he told them we'll be back. Mourn your dead or whatever, but we coming back with more soldiers. And I guess since there's no masculinity in Wakanda, they ran for the hills to Jabari lands.
Now, what Shuri ends up doing is the very thing that I love to see. I never got to see a character like T'Challa does. So here she's in a situation where there's no more heart-shaped herb, there's no more Black Panther. Wakanda's under threat of being completely colonized by another culture. She actually has to figure out how to recreate the heart-shaped herb. And she's in her lab with Riri. So both of them are in the lab together. And they're figuring out all the genius angles on how to recreate all of this, right? And I'm like, yet again, the way I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is something that really could have been inspirational to Black boys, especially if you're aware of the high school graduation rates, the college graduation rates, the college entrance rates, the degree rates. Black men since 1976 have half the degrees Black women do, and both have a fraction of what the white community does. But again, Black boys are in need more than any other. And they could have used the moment where they at least had a character that may have been inspirational. But instead of at least getting one male that can do it, we get 2 females that do it. So, I'm never going to enjoy that shit. But anyway, they figure it out. You want to talk about this part of it?
This part of it I thought was, in some senses, contrived, right? So apparently now the 2 smartest people in the MCU is Riri and Shuri. Right, because there is no Reed Richard, there is no Iron Man, and Peter Parker is, people don't remember who the hell Peter Parker is, right? They know who Spider-Man is, they don't know who Peter. So these are the 2 smartest people next to, I guess, Hulk's good goofy acting itself right now in the MCU, and they're trying to figure out how to recreate this herb that has been burned away and lost. Now, how they even got leaves to use, I don't know. I thought he burnt everything, but whatever. You got some burnt leaves. Okay, you can synthesize it. The fact that you took some of T'Challa's DNA and mixed it together in the machine to try to figure out the genetic code to fabricate this flower on a 3D printer was like, okay, well, that's interesting, but what did the 3D printer use to make that out of? Like gelatin or something? I was like, how does that even work? Like, I'm waiting for the scientific explanation, right? But I'm not going to get it because there ain't no T'Challa there to explain this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not. So now you had this good scene with the two of these brilliant, strong, brilliant, and brave women up there figuring this problem out, the hidden figures of Wakanda figuring out this problem, but they're both talking about who got them into this STEM stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For Shuri, it was T'Challa, and for Riri, it was her father. Two people that you never see in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they both dead. And mentioned 1 second, forgotten in the next one.
Right.
So it was really kind of put out there in a sense that, okay, well, it doesn't matter. You're only useful for, promoting these people into this position. They'll remember you at some point, but it's all them. It's all about them right now.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so there's nothing for me here. I'm just watching stuff happen. Is all it is. I'm just watching stuff happen.
So from there, we get to be reintroduced to Killmonger, right? Because she takes the new heart-shaped herb and ends up, because of her desire for revenge on Namor for having killed her mother, that desire for revenge is kind of suggested is what led her to kind of accidentally call for his ancestral spirit. So there is a confirmation that he's dead. Remember, a lot of, there was a while people were saying, oh, they may have bring him back. They may have been able to save him. And this is
I was saying that he could not be dead because he had the heart-shaped herb in him. So if you pulled out the spear, he would heal.
Right.
That was it. It was just a stab wound. It wasn't like, it was in his heart or something like that, but the heart-shaped herb can heal you. So he could possibly still be alive. Could be. All right.
So that was an interesting discussion. And this is what brings Michael B. Jordan back, because we all knew he was in the movie. We just didn't know in what capacity. So he only has one scene that's only a few minutes long. Now he acts it well. I mean, Michael B. Jordan played his ass off in both movies. I got nothing but respect for his version of Killmonger, because in the comic books, I never found Killmonger very interesting growing up. I just didn't. Whenever I saw him, I wasn't interested. Michael B. Jordan played the first Killmonger that held my attention.
Yep.
That really held my attention. And even in this film, and with one scene, he actually did an excellent job. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say Michael B. Jordan has reimagined that character in his portrayal of Killmonger. And because of that, because he did such a good job with that character, they redesigned that character in the comic books after him. The same way that Wesley Snipes' portrayal of Blade redesigned Blade for the comic books completely. They don't do a version of Blade that ain't Wesley Snipes' version from then on out. So it's the same thing with Killmonger.
Yeah.
So him showing up was good, but I thought this is where I have a issue with, the fake heart-shaped herb, because this is another scene that was spoiled. And that if it was not spoiled, it would have been something that would have given you a big pop in the movie of everybody seeing, oh shit, it's Killmonger here, right? But the part that bothers me with that is that it wasn't just to correct you a little bit. It wasn't so much that she was filled with anger. That's why Killmonger was the only thing that showed up. It's because she's not using a pure source of the heart-shaped herb. Well, it's synthetic.
That's actually I thought. But that's what I thought at first. I thought it was because it was a synthetic heart-shaped herb. But he actually intimated that. He was like, "Why did you call me?" Right? But he wasn't asking as if he's waiting for her to answer. He was asking so that she would understand why she did. But he laid that out there. He was like,
"Yeah, he put that out there." But at the same time, that could be it. I could be wrong on that. I can concede that I could be wrong on that. Because when he took the pure source of the heart-shaped herb, he only saw his father.
Yeah,
because he didn't believe in all the rest of that stuff. But
Yeah.
Shuri also doesn't believe in all the rest of that stuff either, which would make sense that her taking a heart-shaped herb, she would see him. Because neither one of them believed in all of the ancestors and stuff. They didn't believe in that shit.
But you raised something in the first movie. I forgot about his meeting with his father in the ancestral plane. And I do have to say that was another incredible moment in the first movie. As many problems as I had in the first movie, to see him with his father in the ancestral plane, I mean, incredibly well acted, well written, well done. And this scene was actually well done as well in its own way, because he kind of had to advise her in terms of that. And he even makes a critique of T'Challa that I thought was interesting and that only he would make. He was like, T'Challa was too noble. In order to get done what has to be get done, sometimes you got to get busy. And I was like, damn. Okay. That was an interesting critique on his part. So you get this inspiration, coming in the form of Killmonger. And then from there, they initiate an attack. Once she goes, so after she comes out of that, she goes and gets with M'Baku. She demonstrates to everybody that she now has the power of the Panther, and they initiate an attack against the Talokans. They bait them into an attack, and this is where you get the final war scene. Now, what were your thoughts on the final war scene? What'd you think?
Final war scene I thought was tactically stupid because you went to a place where the enemy has the biggest advantage. And if you ever read The Art of War, that is exactly what you do not do. You do not go to where they have the tactical advantage. That's in the chapter called Maneuvers. You don't do that.
You're talking about in the middle of the ocean where they can
in the middle of the ocean.
All they
you ain't got rebreathers. Yeah, you don't have oxygen masks, scuba suits, nothing. You're just gonna fight out there like you fighting on dry land in the middle of the ocean.
They had
that was dumb.
But they had spears, Artisan. What's the problem?
Everybody had spears. Everybody had spears. Even the fish people had spears. But you're gonna fight in the middle of the ocean with the seagoing people.
With the seagoing people, right? But they did
that can sing a siren song and make you drown yourself.
Exactly.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. And I will say that the siren song was an interesting kind of moment. You see the Talokans using this ability to brainwash people into killing themselves, which takes you back to them old myths about the sailors and the sirens. So they kind of give you an indication that had some basis in truth, but it was the Talokans that knew how to do it. So I thought that was a creative little addition. And then you have, of course, Shuri and Riri figuring out just how to take Namor down. Like they figure out the plan on how to do it. Shuri implements it. It kind of works to take him down a little bit, but of course you got to have the big fight at the end. So you have Shuri versus Namor. Now I got to hear this from you. What did you think about the fight?
I think she was getting her ass kicked as she should have been because she was not skilled in fighting. Look, I've said this forever, and it goes into the same thing with my Charles is in here. I know the same thing with my Superman and Batman comparison, right? Why Batman would win. Superman has always been strong, but he doesn't know how to fight. Batman knows how to fight, and he's never been strong. So if on an equal playing field, if either they're both superpowered or they're both depowered, Batman is always going to kick Clark's ass. That's just what's going to happen, right? Shuri, even with a heart-shaped herb in her, she has strength and all the rest of that shit. She does not know how to fight. And what you saw in this was, sangria night on Saturday, and Mamacita started getting a little bit chippy with Poppy. And Poppy was beating her ass. That's what was happening. And I was amazed because I'm thinking, well, damn, this is the first MCU movie I've seen that a small chick is getting her ass kicked by a dude. This is the first time. And it's a black woman. They was okay with this? I mean, I just saw the Woman King. They was killing whole dudes for trying stuff like that. This one, Black Girl Magic was getting dusted. God dang, dude. She didn't have nothing for him. She had gadgets, but them gadgets wasn't helping her.
Well, I'll say this. So in terms of the actual final war scene, my biggest problem is, I think you pointed out was, absolutely true. You don't put yourself in the most vulnerable state most particularly fighting a waterborne people in the middle of the ocean, on top of a large boat, was not the smartest plan. But on top of that, there were, first of all, the Dora Milaje now have become an army, which we saw in the last movie, but they're still the army of Wakanda. So they're the ones doing all the fighting. The men that you do see are basically holding the ropes, as it were, so that the Dora could jump off the boat and fight people on the side of the boat. That's all the men are really there for, right?
Well,
so,
I can tell you how dumb that was. That looked like that scene out of what was it, G.I. Joe 2, where they fighting on the side of the cliff, and Jinx is the one hanging on a string, kicking people's butt. It's the same freaking scene. Yeah. It's the same scene. The Jabari are there, the people who saved the crown of Wakanda, right? The Jabari are there, but they only there to be the big burly dudes holding the ropes for the little ball chicks. And as soon as I saw that scene, I was thinking of you, because I'm like, there's your ConcuSurf.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your serfdom.
You got these huge, big, dudes, and they're barely doing anything but holding the women's ropes so the women can do all the fighting. And I'm like, what war has that ever anyway? But
not never.
Not never. But
look, they either holding ropes or dying, because at the end, who did you see? They was all dead. All the rest of the Jabari was dead, except for him. So, okay, now all of a sudden the Jabari are not good fighters against these people, even though they're bigger and stronger than the Dora Milaje.
Right.
They couldn't take these Atlanteans.
And by the way, even the top Dora Milaje was getting her ass kicked by the Talokans earlier in the film. But at the end, end of the war battle, you had the Midnight Angel, which is Koye in the new suit, armored flying suit, and you have Riri, and you have the Dora, and they're all pretty much alive. It's mostly the men. They're getting their asses handed to them. Now, in terms of the final fight scene with the new Shuri Panther and Namor, I'll say this. What I noticed is that basically her whole story arc as Panther emotionally was pretty much what T'Challa went through during Civil War, right? Where basically she had to grow past her desire for revenge to operate as a true monarch and focus on, even though she's never queen, but focus on the benefit to her people over her own emotional desire for revenge. So she goes through a similar arc as T'Challa in Civil War, which
I wouldn't even say it was similar. It was the same. See? It was the same arc. And that was one of the things that was making me upset about this, is a lot of this stuff was like MCU greatest hits. Done again with females in place.
Yeah.
Like, okay, reset. Now let's do it with the lady.
Riri's suit is basically Iron Man 1. I mean, she just goes through Iron Man 1. She makes a prototype suit.
She does all the same thing.
Then she makes an upgraded suit, and it doesn't do anything different than Tony's. It doesn't look as good, but it doesn't do anything different. She even had the helmet with the hologram interface inside, just like it was nothing different.
Right. That's what made it so weak. And my note on this thing was just Iron Man's greatest hits. That's all it was.
Yeah, it was.
Iron Man's greatest hits, cover band Riri Williams. That's all it was. It's like you just doing the same things that have already been done. We've already seen on screen before as being Iron Man 1 and 2 and 3. Yeah. And now you're doing it again, but you're just doing it with a chick. Yeah. And it's not playing any good.
You're getting this rehashed set of stories. And again, if you've been a long-time comic reader and a long-time MCU watcher, you don't want rehashed stories that you've already watched 10 years ago. You want to see something new, and it's not. It really wasn't. But to the last fight, and this became a big issue on the web, on the internet, most particularly YouTube in this last week. You saw Namor had one of his wings clipped. So with her claws, the Black Panther takes off one of his ankle wings. He has two wings on each ankle. She takes off one of them and proceeds to beat him up. He stabs her with a damn spear. Now, this is where I'm going to need Artisan's brilliance to explain this shit to me, because she has a spear through her entire freaking body. She pulls it out, does a double backflip over him and fights him some more, and then fights him to submission, right? And from there, Namor bends the knee. They come back to the war scene to demonstrate that Talokan has now submitted to Wakanda because of this. Your thoughts?
So this scene, I heard something funny on this, that this scene will play just like Obi-Wan Kenobi played.
Mm.
That Shuri gets stabbed through the gut with a vibranium spear.
Mm.
Now Shuri ain't but 3 inches thick, right? So she gets stabbed through the gut. She gets stabbed through the gut and pinned to a rock.
She was sick the whole movie. Like, she looked thin as hell the whole time, running around in a sweatsuit the whole movie. But go ahead.
Yeah, tracksuit, right? So she gets stabbed through the gut. Now I juxtapose this with the first Black Panther movie, where Killmonger got stabbed in the chest.
Right.
Apparently, his wound is fatal. She can just pull herself off the spear and be all right. And as soon as I saw that, the first thing I thought of was this freaking Reva in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, she's the only person that ever lived from getting stabbed with a lightsaber.
Oh my
twice.
God. Yeah.
And she lived, and Qui-Gon died. So I'm seeing the same thing in this Black Panther movie. Okay, Killmonger died, but she gonna survive. Triple backflip in front of you, and now I get to kick your butt and make you submit to me.
But hold up,
because his ankle hurt. He had Achilles.
But hold up though. Hey, hold up. I had some people online saying, well, it's because the nanobots in the suit repaired her body. But let me ask you a question.
No, that's not what the nanobots do.
Wait. Let me ask you the question. Who designed T'Challa's suit, Killmonger's suit, and Shuri's suit in the last 2 movies? Who designed all of those?
Shuri.
So
she designed them.
So they don't work when it comes to T'Challa and this virus, or Killmonger with his stabbing in the chest, or it only works with her? Is that what it is?
Here's the thing. This is the thing. Those suits are impenetrable unless you have one thing. One thing that you need to be able to get through the nanobots to hurt the person beneath it. And what is that? Sound waves, sonic emission. That's how you control vibranium. That's how Killmonger got stabbed, because the little sonic resonators for the train disrupted the nanobots and left him exposed.
Right.
None of that was apparent on that damn beach. So that vibranium spear should have did exactly what the fuck everything else does. Bounced off of her. Shouldn't have went through anything. Yeah, exactly.
When you have vibranium against vibranium, it shouldn't result in that. So, that's pretty much where you get the end of the majority of the movie, right? You basically, Talokan bends the knee. You have Namor explaining to his daughter, and by the way, Namor is like 5 centuries old, but he's explaining to his daughter, that this could be politically good for Talokan, and that
was that his daughter?
Yeah,
I thought it was just another Talokan person. I didn't know if that was his daughter or his chick or who the hell he was. They had fleshed that out.
I think it was Namora. I'll check the
because if it's Namor, that's supposed to in the comics, that's supposed to be his cousin.
Actually,
but I thought his girl got killed when Nakia broke in to rescue Shuri.
So he called her daughter, and then she shares his name. Here she is right here, played by Mabel Cadena. I probably mispronounced that, but she plays Namora. So I think in this series, she's a daughter, but I think he referred to her as that. And she was a little pissed at him for bending the knee, and he was explaining that
submitting.
Yeah, and he explained he did it on purpose, and this could end up working well. So then from there, right, we get Shuri.
Okay, one point on that, why he submitted, which I thought was BS in that scene.
Okay.
The scene where he submits. Understand, he figuratively he bends the knee. He doesn't practically bend his knee, right? You don't see him actually bend his knee. He's just on his back. While he's on his back, Shuri is having a vision of the ancestral plane and sees Ramunda, which shouldn't happen at all for other reasons. I can explain that shit later. But at the same time, Shuri is seeing a vision of Ramunda. Namor is seeing a vision of his mother on the ancestral plane. So they're having a shared vision at the time of their mothers. And that's why he capitulates and agrees to have an alliance and cease fighting, and not just, we can keep going at this till one of us is dead. That was the reason. That was the figurative reason why he bent the knee, because his mother was beckoning him,
Right.
oh, do this for peace. Like,
Well,
okay, we'll give peace a chance.
And you raise a significant point, because if we really look at the first movie, it really is about fathers and sons. And what they did with the second movie, in a way, is they made it about mothers and their children, right? So, like as you said, we don't ever see Namor's father, or at least not in any way I can remember. And of course, you know, we see this whole kind of arc around Ramonda and Shuri the whole movie, right? So the mother element is kind of replacing the father element in this movie as far as focus. Well, again, all of that, it doesn't sound bad on the surface. The problem for me is when you remember what the fuck the brand is, what the product is about. It's about Black Panther, and Black Panther has always been synonymous with T'Challa. Just like with Batman, you got 100 different people who've worn the Batman suit, who are part of the Batman family at one point or another, were Batman, but Batman will always be Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean? You got a bunch of Supermen going centuries into the future, but Superman will always be Clark Kent. We got one movie of T'Challa as Black Panther, which he's been since 1966. You got a late story arc, and I really wish you'd say something about this, because I hear people all the time, well, Shuri was Panther in the comics. That happened a minute ago in comic lore. She was only Panther for a little bit. He'd been the Panther since 1966. We can't get a full movie where you actually see him in his full birthright. But anyway, I digress. So that said, go ahead.
Yeah, I've said this before with the Black Panther MCU franchise. Yes, Shuri was Black Panther for a minute during Doom War in the comic book. So I wasn't upset that she was going to get some shine in the MCU. That was not the part that was upsetting me. I figured it would happen for one movie, we'd be done with it, and then we get on to the next Black Panther or back to T'Challa by the third movie. Okay, cool. But what happened is with Chadwick dying, it threw a monkey wrench into that whole damn thing. That they had to pivot this whole thing onto Shuri for a permanent solution and not a temporary thing. That they kind of still did it in this movie, in the sense that Shuri is not the queen of Wakanda right now.
Right.
Baku is the king.
Right.
She's just Black Panther. She's just the Black Panther of Wakanda, but she's not running anything.
Yeah, which is
that's why she can be pieced out, hanging out with, you know, her brother's girlfriend and her nephew, not worried about running Wakanda.
But that's why, and that's the same thing that happened with T'Challa and T'Chaka, right? There was a period where T'Challa was Black Panther while his father was still king. But I do want to mention these two posts.
Yeah, it happened with him and Shuri too.
But I want to mention these two posts that I think are important. So we got Officer Faulkner up here. Shout out to you. And I will be dropping the link in a minute. We're almost done. Where he says she was Black Panther for 3 issues. So this is the part I keep coming back to.
Damn, Charles, you just gonna let everybody know.
No, really. But if you so again, if that's like, if Lois Lane is Superwoman for 3 issues, how the hell do we get one Superman movie, the very first time we ever see Superman in a live action movie, and the next movie is about Lois? How many? Look, let the men actually have what they fought for. How about we start with that? There's no, let them have what we fought for. She's Panther for 3 issues. He been Panther since 1966.
Right.
Let the men actually have what the fuck they fought for. The second one I want to post is by No One. Shout out to No One. He says, why does Shuri not see her father? Her father was not as noble as T'Challa and ruthless by his own confession to T'Challa in the first movie. I think that's an interesting point. You want to respond to that?
Well, that gets to my point on why she only saw Killmonger. She's not using the real herb. So she didn't have access to the rest of those people. They didn't show up.
See?
And the reason I have an issue with her seeing her mother is because Ramonda never took the heart-shaped herb, so you wouldn't see her. The heart-shaped herb connects you to all the past Black Panthers.
Right.
She wouldn't be there.
They getting real liberal with the stories, huh?
Man, that's like Kylo Ren seeing Han Solo. Like, what is this, a Force ghost? He ain't had the Force. How does this work? It's the same Disney bullshit. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh man. So let's get to the big reveal. So everything's over, as you said. it's assumed that M'Baku takes the throne. He shows up at the waterfall cliffs where they had the big fight.
Oh, he says it.
Huh?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
He says it. No, he says it. I mean,
Well,
King.
he says, I'm here to challenge for the throne, but there doesn't seem to be anyone to challenge. And I remember thinking for a second, is Shuri about to fight him? And then I remembered, well, in order to fight, she has to have the heart-shaped herb removed. You don't want to see that fight.
No. Well, when I saw that scene, when I saw that scene, I laughed out loud because I took that as, hey, somebody listen to my stream because I said how this would play out. It's like, there's no way back in #1 when they were talking about it, it's like, there's no way Shuri can be Black Panther because the first thing she has to do is fight on the waterfall. What's going to happen?
And ritual
M'Baku's going to show up again. It's going to be challenge day, and she's going to get thrown the fuck off the waterfall.
But, see, but that goes back to the whole Mary Sue dynamic that so many people have a problem with in so many of these films. She gets to be because she gets to be, but she doesn't have to go through the rights and the difficulties and the challenges that the men generally have. It's just like Rey in Star Wars. She just is. She knows everything. She is everything. It just is. And when men say, "What? Look, I got a problem with this," because we watched, for how long did we watch Luke climb his way up to becoming a master Jedi? You know what I mean? We had to sit through 3 movies, and you had to wait the years in between the movies, and you watched him struggle. You watched him get his ass kicked. You watched him get trained. She just wakes up one day, she hears about the Force, and a few hours later, she's whooping a master, Sith. Yeah. It's the same dynamic with this. So I started laughing when he was like, "I'm here to challenge for rulership." I was like, "Is Shuri about to come out that heart-shaped herb?" Yeah. Take that ass because they ain't gonna go down.
It's gonna go. Yeah, it's gonna go down.
Ain't gonna go down. I thought it would have been a creative take if he was not only Panther, but not only the king, but also Panther. I don't know if I want to see a whole movie of that, but it would have been interesting to see M'Baku with the heart-shaped herb. I ain't gonna lie, that would be an interesting.
That'd been something else. That would have been something else because he would have been beast mode for real.
Oh man.
But he kind of prays to a different god. He prays to the great ape and not to Bast. So if he took the heart-shaped herb and went to see Bast, I think that'd be an interesting conversation. It'd be some BS going on.
Right.
It'd be some smoke happening. Like, what the heck?
But I would have signed on just to see him fight as the Panther one time. That's dope.
Yeah.
It would have been dope. But
that would have been fun. That would have been fun. The whole idea that somebody pushed like, oh, there's 2 Black Panthers in the movie. It could have been. You could have gave M'Baku a little sip of the juice. I mean, you had some left over. Give him some of that grape drink, and they both could have got out there and got busy.
I'll give Riri this. She at least asked. She was like, "Can I get some of that?" Because
can I get a sip?
You'd have seen me sucking a little bit of that juice when I was off screen. You just be like, "What are you doing? Huh? Nothing."
Look, I'm sorry. I would have instituted, since I was fighting the waterborne people who all are strong and superhuman levels. Everybody would have been taking a grape drink that day. Look, we figured out how to synthesize the flower. Everybody get a sip.
Everybody
getting a sip. We about to go to battle. Everybody need a sip.
Well, as my guest today, I want to give you the honor of telling people about the major reveal, if you will. So the movie's essentially over, right? I mean, unless I'm missing anything, we know the CIA agent, his wife locks him up, what is it, 2/3 through the film or whatever. So
yeah, that's bullshit.
All the men are being outsmarted by all the women left and right. That's the portrayal of it, right? So Namor gets his ass whooped. The CIA agent played by Martin, what's his name? Martin. I almost call him Martin Sheen, but his name
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman. Thank you. He gets locked up by his ex-wife, who you saw a little bit of. In which series was that? Was that she showed up?
She showed up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier when they introduced Valentina.
Yeah. So we see her in a minute. She locks him up, and then of course you got M'Baku, who's kind of whatever through the whole movie. So we get to the end of the movie. What's the big reveal? You care to share that?
Yeah. So the big reveal is why Nakia went to Haiti. Nakia was pregnant. And she says, by her account, that her and T'Challa agreed that they would not raise their child in Wakanda, so without the pressures of the throne and stuff like that. So Nakia went to Haiti. T'Challa set her up there, and she had a child. And for that 6 years she was gone, she was there raising their child alone. So T'Challa has a son called Toussaint, which in Haiti, that means something in Haiti. I know that's middle name. Yeah, Toussaint is my middle name, so I know what that means. But his real name, his Wakandan name, is T'Challa. You know, second of his name. He is named T'Challa. Right. So when I heard that in the movie, I'm like, oh, okay, they had a child. Okay, secret love child. But then at the same time, you gave him his same name. I was like, oh, so this is how Marvel gets around. We're not going to recast T'Challa. No, they're not going to recast T'Challa. They just gave you another T'Challa. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Right. Right. Oh, my God. What an insult, dude. That's an insult.
I personally think they did this in response to the criticism, but I don't know for sure. I can't know when that was decided upon. Go ahead.
No, I was going to agree with you. I would believe that was a reshoot. I would believe that was a reshoot.
They added on.
I believe that. Yeah, that they because back in what is it? October, September, October. They went back and did reshoots for this movie. Okay. They were doing reshoots like a month before the movie released.
Yeah, I remember.
I bet that was some of the reshoots. Well, because everybody else thinking the reshoots were Dr. Doomseed or something else post credits, and none of that was there. But the scene you did get was, they had a child.
And it wouldn't take much because there's only 3 people in the scene. There's Nakia, there's Shirley, and there's this little boy. So they could have did that last week, and it wouldn't have made. It really didn't take much. The scene was only a couple minutes, and they were sitting on a beach. They weren't even in Wakanda. They were just sitting on a Haitian beach. So they could have did that right there in L.A. for all we knew.
Yeah, exactly.
They could have been right there in L.A. Just
right there in Venice.
These guys online are talking too much shit. We need to cool this off. Let's call the boy. Call him T'Challa. Just call him T'Challa and get him up here because we need to cool
get him up here. They really gonna be outraged. Let's make sure they got another black one.
Exactly. So now,
they'll get another T'Challa.
So the implication now is we might finally get a somewhat comic book accurate T'Challa, maybe. But here's the thing. So who's gonna teach him to be the Panther? His auntie, right? He's gonna be the first Black Panther that single mother raised, trained by his auntie. So I'm just looking at this.
Who can't fight? Who
already can fight? T'Challa is a master martial artist, a master tactician. You got him, I'm just looking at this like, this is the gynocracy on steroids. It's like this is the T'Challa that I grew up with was a product of a male line of warrior kings. And I know in this current moment, what's thrown around, especially in academia, is that gender doesn't mean anything. You should be able to switch women and men and children and adults, and we just throw everybody around. It does none of this really matters. But when you come out of an environment where you didn't get to have men, I mean, I'm Generation X. We were the first major generation to grow up as under single parents. You're not going to tell me that having a father doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry.
No shit.
Not going to work. You're not going to tell me that he can be replaced by anybody that calls themselves a father simply because you want to push an ideology. Fuck that. I know what it's like to not have my father, and I damn sure wasn't going to let my son experience that because I know what it is. So you're not going to tell me a T'Challa that doesn't have a father and pretend like you're going to give me a comic book accurate character. It means something. Men have a place in families. Fathers have a place in families, and fathers are incredibly necessary for the well-being of children. You're not going to sell me on this idea of a healthy black boy that doesn't have any presence, any male presence of any significance. It's not going to work. Not for me. And I'm personally offended at this idea that I keep seeing over and over again, that men are a last-minute afterthought. Fathers are an afterthought. And if they don't come up at all, it doesn't matter because fathers aren't necessary. I'm so sick of this shit. I'm not going for it. And I'm going to call it out anytime I see it. And I urge you to do the same. I just need to put that out there, man.
Yeah, no. I'm just sitting here warming my hands on the fire. Go ahead.
Shit is ridiculous.
No,
go ahead.
No, I agree. I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly. Being a Gen Xer myself, growing up without my father there, having my own son, my own daughter, there's no way in hell I would let my children be raised without their father there, right? And this is what bothered me about the scene of T'Challa sending away his woman and his child to just go live somewhere else without the pressures of the throne. Right. That goes completely against what he was doing in the first movie. Mm-hmm. That he was tied to that legacy. He was tied to that lineage. He loved his father. His father groomed him to be king one day. They had that respect for each other. Having that moment, understanding all that, you mean to tell me this same man turned around and is like, oh, you pregnant with my baby? Here, why don't you go down south and raise it by yourself? I'll give you some money. It'll be good. What?
Hopefully nothing happens to y'all.
Yeah, I don't want him a part of this whole legacy lineage, Black Panther, royal family stuff. I don't want him a part of that.
So get the hell out of here. Put it in context. So now the queen is sending Nakia under the ocean to find her daughter. This little boy just hanging out in Haiti by himself.
Yeah.
Right? No recognition by the crown. They imply that Queen Ramonda did get to meet him once because she showed up to talk to Nakia to ask her to go find Shuri. The implication is she did get to see her grandson once, but he is raised outside of Wakanda. He doesn't know the culture. It's very reminiscent of a young Killmonger.
It is, but the indication is that she met him, but she may not have known that was T'Challa's son. That's not clear. Yeah, that's not made clear.
Yeah.
It's like, did she meet him? Yeah, she met him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might have been one of the boys there that told her where Nakia was, but she don't know that's grandmama. She don't know that's her little baby grandson. She don't know.
So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put the link in. Is there anything you want to say about all of this, and anything you want to reflect upon before I bring people up? So the link is gonna fall into the chat. You're welcome to come up. Only thing you got to do is be respectful to the platform, and we can dialogue about this. But Artisan, anything you want to say before we bring people in?
I would still say, and it may sound ridiculous me saying it, but for you guys to actually see this movie, I'm not saying you got to pay for it, but you should watch this movie. You should watch this movie to understand what is exactly going on in here, because this is the play. Look at it as like watching game film on a football game. You need to know the play that the other team is running. You need to know what's out here. It's not enough just to hear it from other people. You need to see it and feel it and understand it for yourself. That's why you need to see it. Not because it's the best movie ever, not because it's the worst movie ever, but you need to have a context to understand this more than just, I heard what somebody else said. You need to have that understanding for yourself so you can feel it for yourself and understand what it means to you, not just what it means to me, or Dr. T, or anybody else. What it means to you to see what is going on in that, because you might see something completely different that we missed.
Well,
might be just like me and Dr. T having a difference of what the heart-shaped herb and why she saw Killmonger. You might have a whole different take on it. That's why you should see it yourself.
And he's more optimistic than I am, because once Ryan Coogler said working with black women was better than working, I forget how he worded it. I was kind of.
Did he say that?
Oh,
yeah, I don't even want.
There was an article don't tell me months ago about that shit, and I was done with Coogler as far as that. But shout out to Devin Mitchell for the support, and shout out to Tyrone for the generous support. Appreciate you for doing that. Let me go ahead and bring up. We got Malika, we got
Tyrone,
and then we got Colonel Faulkner. So what's up, people?
I got a bone to pick, Doc. You never include me in these conversations early, Doc. Never do.
I got you up here.
You up here now?
Yeah, that's like that's
word.
the equivalent. That's like the equivalent of coming to Thanksgiving and you get the bottom half of the macaroni. You know,
Oh, here you
Said
go.
the
get the goddamn quarters, Negro.
Here
You know,
you go. You one of the elite, man. Stop complaining.
I'm always the lead man. So shoot, I ain't trying to get nobody sloppy seconds up here. You
Nah,
know,
man.
Yeah.
I saved you a slice of
Hey
sweet
man,
potato pie, man.
I just run point.
Wait,
I'm
hold on.
alert.
I'm
Alert
just
out here.
I'm
I
just
want
looking at this
wait,
fiasco.
wait. I just want to say I saved you a slice of sweet potato pie, good brother. Come on.
There you go.
I mean, he did save me a slice. I mean, he nibbled off of it, but at least he thought about me. It's the thought that counts.
All right.
Let me tell you, Negro, something, you know. But
Well,
it's gonna be very hard for me to see this movie,
Oh, Lord.
especially.
You've been to war before.
Yeah, but guess who was doing the heavy lifting? It wasn't the women.
okay.
I would tell you what a lot of the women were doing, and it was not fighting. It was something else with an F, but we're gonna be respectful to the stream.
Okay.
And I'm so tired of actually, and shout out to all the veterans out there. Veterans Day, happy Veterans Day.
Happy
I'm
Veterans
so,
Day.
I'm so tired of seeing these movies where guys who are 5'10", 230 pounds of muscle getting handed that ass is handed to them by women. I'm looking at the little, Sherlock Holmes insert girl here movie on Netflix, and I'm just watching a clip. And you
Yep.
see, of course, you got the tropes. You got the skinny white girl, the overweight, sassy black woman, and then the feisty Latina take on these burly men and just get like the men. It wasn't even a competitive fight. It was just like an overblown fight. And I'm just thinking, have you ever been in a situation like this, Charles? No, it's because it would be a mauling.
Mm.
And I'm just like, I'm looking at this Black Panther movie, but I'm not gonna call it a Black Panther movie. I'm just gonna call it Wakanda Light. You know, and I'm pretty sure I figured out the whole script just from y'all talking about it. I'm pretty much figured, yeah, she's gonna synthesize that damn herb, and she's gonna pass out the Wakandan lean or something. And I'm just like, yeah, it looks like lean. It's purple. Come on now. But I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking to myself, like, yeah, you might have the super soldier serum, but you're going against an even more powerful opponent who have 500 years of experience of fighting than you do.
Yeah.
And for Artisan, yeah, there's certain things. Batman's greatest superpower is plot armor. I mean, you can't. That's more than bulletproof, but it's something that just I've seen it in reality. I've been around as a police officer for almost 2 decades, as a soldier for a decade. Women get into confrontations. You know what I see? I don't see them flipping guys around. I see them getting hurt plenty of times, and that's the ugly truth that people don't want to see. And people be like, I'll give you a good example because I'm in this business class for veterans, right? And you have to do this PowerPoint presentation, and it's mostly men. And the one lady, I mean, she's a sweet older lady veteran. She says, I noticed you got the women up there and none of the women in the security positions. And she's like old enough to be my mom, maybe my grandmother. And I said, well, man, with all due respect, people are not going to believe me if believe a 5'2" woman, 112 pounds is going to protect them.
Mm.
I don't care how much girl power we get out there. Yeah. And I put the thing in, and I just put it in my PowerPoint just to see the reaction. And I said, you know what's funny about this picture? Yes, the female's driving the vehicle with the principal in the back, but you still have a guy with a rifle outside the vehicle protecting them. And it gets to this point, and when I'm listening to you both, coming with the dialogue, and I'm just like, there's nobody else who's smart enough to do this. There's nobody said, you know what, if I'm super strong with this herb, Why not give it to M'Baku, who's physically stronger than me already? He's a warrior.
You know,
Might as well make
sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there is actually like more often than not, I think there's like some data behind this that look at women police officers though, they draw their firearms first before the men do, and it's just you see, that stuff doesn't really get talked about. It's like I think there was that one story about like this I think there was like gosh, it was this young this one white woman who basically shot this brother just multiple times, I think, and they just like I think she almost got away with it, but I think the judge stopped it. It's just like this type of like this idea that women are just so they can do all the side moves. I'm like, no, it's fans, it's a type of propaganda. And I think most people need to realize that, this like, okay, you need to, calm it down here. And even worse, I mean, like I put that little super chat there. I really did enjoy the first Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman really did. He really fit the movie. Is one, is helping the CIA agent, which if you know anything about history and Black or Pan African and the CIA, that is, I'm surprised T'Challa didn't just like super punch him out of the continent or whatever or something like that. And two, his whole thing, which was disappeared in the movie, was those community centers and such. They're like, I'm like, what is this? What is that's what they're going to do instead of like having like real tangible stuff. Like here's a community center here. Here's a little like this thing here, basketball court. For that is not actual real guidance or anything else like that. Just it's a little trinket for you to keep them off the streets.
No, that's a relevant point because I actually thought Riri was going to have been a student in one of those centers or something, but there was no mention of it whatsoever in the second film. She had nothing to do with it. They never mentioned it at all. So, yeah.
Now, I want you to think about this when they talk about we're not going to recast T'Challa. How many goddamn James Bonds you had?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
this is over 60, almost 70 years.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Inspector Clouseau. I mean, when that dude died, I remember when he like, they did a whole movie with body doubles. This was back in the 80s and such. They did a whole movie based on that stuff.
Even Bruce Lee had Game of Death. Come on, And I'm just looking at this like
that, and honestly,
let's do this. Let's go one at a time. And I want to get some of the brothers in here who haven't spoken yet. I want to get you guys to break out your unvarnished opinion. I'm gonna let Officer Faulkner finish his point. Then I'm gonna let Duquette finish his point, and then y'all let me know who wants to go next. Go ahead.
Okay. If I can jump in after that, that'd be nice.
Okay, Vector. Go ahead.
Same thing with me.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say this. It's a slap in the face that you didn't get the T'Challa that we needed,
right,
and wanted. Right. I want to see this intelligent Black man who's arrogant and can slap Tony Stark in the face. And I'm just as my peers are Dr. Doom, Reed Richards, Namor. The hell with that Namor shit. No. You don't just get more, you get Namor. But no. It's sad because you see how this is going to affect boys.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to need women to our rescue. You already see it. What is it, Newsweek? When they have a Black woman holding a little boy. And it's crazy because I grew up with my father.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if I had to pick my mom and my dad, I'm rocking with my dad because there's more we have in common. Not saying I don't love with my mom. Mm-hmm. But they're going to cheapen us with not recasting a new T'Challa. You've done it it's not like you haven't done it before. Rhodey, anybody? He's gotten a lot darker since the first Iron Man. And you really don't understand the cultural impact that this is supposed to have. God help us if we don't get Blue Marvel. Please, God help us. But I'm just going to end it with this. Like, I'm gonna go through a real struggle to go see this movie and really have an objective view, because it's so hard for me to watch a movie and not see the propaganda and all the wokeism. And I'll stay to this point. It make this movie sounds like it's gonna make me appreciate Black Adam that much more. Next.
The most dominant black actor is a black superhero, so he's black and Samoan. You know, he's playing an Arab, but he's the most dominant character. We don't even get a black man superhero in this movie. But Duquette, go ahead and finish your point, and then we'll go to Vector and KT.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna probably head out because this is a great conversation and stuff like that. One thing I look at this whole situation with Black Panther. Once again, you don't own the prop. I mean, black men don't own anything in Hollywood for the most part. And I feel like if black men and stuff like own Disney and own Marvel, stuff like that, they would have sit there and said, okay, if we can't do it with T'Challa or else, we'll build up, for example, at Baku. We'll build up the people there. You know, let's build them up, because I want to have like someone for these young boys to look up to.
Right.
You know, have the men there to actually build something up. And here, and that to me is the sad part, is that, you know, we just have to just start cutting, just like, oh,
looks like we lost
men to build up black women and black girls. And heck, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised that most black girls are not going to really be a part, watch this stuff. They're not going to be like, oh, engaged and happy. And no, they just are not going to care. You know, they're not going to actually sit and watch and care. And it's this disheartening. It's just like this. They have this, like, it's just this need of tearing people down, tearing mostly black men down. They just get it because they can get away with it and such, because you know white supremacy and all. But I'm going to end it on here. Is that, to me, that if we had more black men in power, more black men behind the scenes, not just behind the camera, which is good, but also in these boardrooms and the producer roles. I mean, honestly, if Kevin Feige was black, he wouldn't even be close to being what the head guy in Marvel. Let's be real. He wouldn't even be close. I want to see a black Kevin Feige. I want to see that type of stuff there. If you want change, you want actual tangible change, you need people like black men really be behind the scenes, be in the boardrooms, be the people there to make the business happen. Anyway, great compliment to all of y'all. Be safe, and I will hopefully catch y'all later.
All right, man. Appreciate you coming through. Let's go ahead and give it to Vector. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the movie, I had two major problems with the movie. You guys already hit on a lot of the stuff, so I won't repeat that stuff. But the two issues I had, and it kind of extends back to the first Black Panther too, is about just the overall, what I would consider is weakness that they're trying to push onto the African cultures. The first thing I think is T'Challa was the king of Wakanda, but I thought the mid cut scene was disrespectful in the fact that not just the baby mama part of it, but the fact that T'Challa as a king was never married and had a bastard son, and then sent the son away to not live in Wakanda, even though the first Black Panther movie, most of it was about Killmonger not being a legitimate Wakandan because he didn't grow up in Wakanda. I thought that was bullshit.
Right.
I'm like, what kind of African king doesn't have a queen?
Right.
And then the second issue I had with the overall movie plot, and again, this might be explained away by people as far as, okay, it's in the source material, but I just don't understand how in the beginning of the movie, you got France and the USA constantly threatening Wakanda, trying to steal from Wakanda, and they get let off the hook. And then they threaten Namor's people, and they get let off the hook. And then now you've got Latinos and Africans fighting each other over problems that were caused by white people. Like, when did white people ever get any smoke in these movies?
Facts.
Yep.
I don't like that at all. I mean, even with the first movie, Killmonger came in and said, we as Wakanda should be seeking power.
Mm.
And what happens? You ended up with Africans killing Africans. Now, in this same thing, you've got Namor, who's basically Killmonger Part 2, saying, I'm going to seek power. And now you got Latinos killing Africans. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yep.
So that's just my two thoughts. You guys hit on all of the other gynocratic stuff that I didn't like too, but those two things really bother me because not only we're just not talking about the male-female thing, but those two issues right there really kind of make me feel like they're just kind of shitting on people of African descent as a whole, as trying to push this narrative of not seeking power and not seeking vengeance.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel you. KT, why don't you jump in on this?
A few moments ago, you and Artisan brought up the point of Black Adam and the story of Black Adam. Reason why Black Adam was such a successful movie right from the rip is because of not just because of the quality acting, but when you strip away all the superhuman struggle from that film, it's about the story and the importance of fatherhood. Because notice in that film, it was Black Adam's son who sacrificed himself and gave his powers to his father because he believed in his father's ability to lead, and given the right opportunity, access, and exposure to the power to properly protect their people, he would have successfully, which he did, protect his people before he went dormant. Whereas here with Black Panther, okay, I will say this, I'll be honest with you. When I observed, okay, T'Challa has T'Challa Jr., basically that's what he is, I got excited. I was like, okay, great. Because probably more than likely what they're going to do storyline-wise, come around Avengers Secret Wars, they're going to probably advance his age, do some type of time jump, because, Kang's in the mix along with Doctor Doom. So that way, by the time Secret Wars rolls around, he, just like in the comic books, T'Challa, or this T'Challa, is going to be the one who takes down Doctor Doom and Kang. But the story to get there is what's making me cringe, especially with me. You know how passionate of a father I am with my kids.
Right.
Here's the problem. They're more than likely going to tell a story of how this boy's growing up without a father, and it's going to be the Dora Milaje who are going to be like mother-like figures along with Nakia, who are going to be teaching this boy not only how to be a warrior, but how to be a woman, from a woman's perspective, teaching this boy how to be a proper king.
Right.
So then he could be the king and Black Panther that the women of Wakanda, want him to be, which is, you put this in front of the wrong people. What I mean by that is people are easily indoctrinated by media without really being knowledgeable about sociological traits and behaviors. They're going to think, oh, well, this is single motherhood empowerment. And women, regardless of their ethnic background, are going to take it and run with it. And the media is going to eat that up and continue to feed that frenzy of like, single motherhood, yes, this is the way to go. It takes a strong single mother and a woman to raise a boy into a man. That's the wrong image to be sending. Right. And one last point before we go over into more of this conversation is this. Back to the DC aspect. Now, DC was special with Rock in the mix. Is probably sitting back licking their chops because DC, they got waiting to come out the Val Zod Superman film with Michael B. Jordan. And now with this new director regime and produce regime, they can also bring in Cyborg to capitalize on the black male demographic and bring back Ray Fisher. Yeah. And then the one I've been waiting for, and probably you have too.
Are they going to really go with the Cyborg, with the original actor?
Oh, that's on deck. That's on deck. Trust me, that one's on deck. Excellent. But also, there's going to be another big one that I know all of us been waiting here for: the John Stewart iteration of Green Lantern. When they do that with a series of solo films with him, yes, along with he's already slated to be in the Justice League 2 sequel. John Stewart's Green Lantern as one of the outright leaders of the group, alongside Batman and Superman. They're really gonna blow Marvel out of the water just by that alone, because they're gonna tell a proper story that prioritizes and emphasizes the importance of black men being leading men as leading characters, which will translate into seeing the message that black men can be leaders in life. Where Marvel, they're probably gonna squander it, even if they do bring in a Blue Marvel, or what they did recently, which I think was just some fan service. They call it race swapping with Wonder Man. Which he's not really an A-list character.
Right.
Marvel's gonna be hurting.
Well, the thing is,
Can I ask this?
Hold on, real quick. DC has already gotten the jump on it. They just released an animated Black Green Lantern John Stewart film, not but a few weeks ago. So they're already
Right.
now. Chaos. I'm gonna let you get out a brief question, but Malika's next. So go ahead and get your brief statement or question out before we jump.
Yeah, that, I want to add on to this. You notice, and I'm not sure how much the money racked up with Black Adam, but can we say that DC has to take this direction and get away from this woke nonsense now, and now say I have to bring the black man in to save and recuperate what I've lost, like they did with Blade
It
24
could
years
happen. It could happen.
No, Doctor, I think it is happening right now.
Hmm.
They're in so much debt right now, they can't afford to be playing games with any movie they're trying to put out. The only top movies they made for the last couple years was Aquaman and this weird old movie called The Joker. And we know that The Rock that just came out last month, we know that's going to make a couple billion already. So now they look at and saying, now we're going to move forward and said we needed to get this payoff that we're going to have to bring real aspect of how a real comic book movie should be for now. And after a while, we'll see where things go.
Well,
in my opinion.
And the potential is there. The potential is there because you're right. There's a clear opportunity to grab onto an audience that is pissed off and take advantage of it. And DC just changed management, so Artisan could go into more depth about that than I can. But let's go ahead and let Malika jump in, and any of the brothers that want to go after him, just hit me in the private chat. Go ahead, Malika.
Peace, y'all. What's going on?
Hold on. You there?
Okay. I haven't seen the movie yet. I'll probably see it next week. But hearing the spoilers and what Artisan said yesterday, and definitely what you gentlemen went over, it's very disheartening. It's very heartbreaking because just like you and Artisan, I'm a Gen Xer, and I grew up on seeing the Jack Kirby and Stan Lee version of Black Panther and having him go through all the iterations, and seeing the movie in 2018 was powerful. And that was one thing that I think that the powers that be wanted to take out because they saw how powerful it was. And it wasn't just having a black man being in power, but seeing how you have a black man being in power, but he's empowering a bunch of people and bringing people together, black man, black woman, black child, and also having other races see that and have that, and they were like, oh, this is a problem. So the tragic death of Chadwick was something, but I agree, as we all said, you could get another great actor to portray T'Challa. He's just a character. There are plenty of other characters in media that have taken over. We could talk about it like we said, James Bond and other superhero characters in different media and different lore. But the thing is this is particularly for us, and that hits us, and especially for black men. When you guys were saying you rarely saw black men, you saw nothing but women. When you said at the UN, the Wakandans stood up and you saw majority women. And right there and there, it hits me. You start seeing. I said, "Oh, this is art imitating life." Wakanda is the black community the way it is in real life. There's nothing but women there. The men are supposed to be like how you mentioned, as the different labels that you say, Dr. T. CompuServes were walking phalluses, ATMs. Just like how you and Artisan were saying that that M'Baku's people were holding the lines for the Dora Milaje to come on. And this is crazy. Dora Milaje is now the army.
Yeah.
Like anybody that knows, not gonna understand this is an adaptation for the movies, but you're literally going to take power away from the men. In the first movie, you see the border people. Where them motherfuckers is at?
They weren't there.
But they never came back from the snap.
Nope.
We saw them come back when in the Infinity War.
Right.
But what gets me is you're showing this imagery, and like how you said, and they put 2 commercials out that goes in conjunction with this movie. It's a Visa MasterCard, where a little girl, she goes into this gift shop and she's seeing all these African Wakandan things, and this woman behind the counter gives her a camel bee bracelet, and you can see like there's this synergistic energy that forms like the Dora Milaje uniform, and she does the Wakanda thing, and then you see the Target, and I was talking to Artisan about that. You see Suri, she goes to Target and she just sees this one black girl she's trying to get in STEM. And I can understand that you're showing that the STEM, but what hit me, I was like, we never see shit like that for young black boys.
Yeah.
Never.
Right.
When the Black Panther movie came out, we never saw anything like if you saw a black boy, he's walking down the street and he's looking in a science store, and you see Chadwick Boseman comes up and he says, science is a great thing, and he's looking at him, and we don't see that.
Right.
Or you're seeing a kid, he can't get into college, but then all of a sudden he says, well, why don't you do something? Then all of a sudden you see Chadwick Boseman come down. He says, what we could do is, and all of a sudden you can see is something for the United Negro College Fund. We never see stuff for us.
Right.
Everything is projected for that. And then the imagery that we see in this movie of black men being weak or black men not being there. So this is indoctrinating us that we don't have anything. And like you said, Doctor, your son, for all his years, has never seen in media a black male or a black boy beating a female or being just as good as a female in any situation. And that's disheartening. And when I see how the way this is, it reminds me back when I'm in school. You can see the white teachers, whether they be male or female, and the black female teachers giving more credence and respect and leeway to the black girls in school. And what cracks me up, and I remember Angry Man had said this, and Tariq Nasheed had said this one time. He says, if this is a problem with black men, why don't you give black men a fair chance? And the thing is, the reason why you don't want to give us that fair chance, because you know that we'll win. And you're afraid that we're going to take it. That's what that first movie did. That first movie gave us one thing: pride. Pride. That wellspring of pride that black men, it felt good to see a black man. First of all, just how the way Chadwick played him. Chadwick played him with a quiet, charismatic regalness. And one thing that he remembered, that he cared about the country. He cared about his people.
Yeah.
He didn't, but at the same time, he cared about Killmonger. And me and Artisan, we talked about this a lot on his show. He respected his father, but he had to check his dad, and he said, you left him hanging.
Yeah.
And his father had to look down, and his father carried that with him even to the spirit realm.
Yeah.
And the way you guys are talking about this, we do not see any real pride. Men, we care about the whole. Women only care about the one. We can go back to that Cocktails for Queens when Ice Cube says to them, don't y'all care about the community? And one of those women, and she was about to say no, but she had to check herself, and she said yes. No, they don't. This movie does not show about the whole community. And then the slap in the face at the end where you're showing the child. No way in the world a man who went through his story arc to try to get his people together. He comes back from a snap by bringing his people together. He's caring about his people. He's going to send his child somewhere else.
Right.
The thing is, and he realizes lineage. Lineage. That child is a reflection of him. That child, he knows that. Remember when he comes from the spirit realm and he kneels to his father, and his father said, get off your knees. You are a king. And he says, Father, I'm telling what I'm supposed to do. And he says, you've been at my side since the day you were born. He would do that for his son. Why is he going to send his son somewhere else? You just said it yourself. You grew up not having your father around and being disconnected, and you're making sure that your son is by your side.
Right.
This is a slap in the face of that. You show this man from 2018 and 2019 being this regal strong man. Ain't no fucking way he's going to send his child and his woman. I don't care if his woman wants to go somewhere, but he's the fucking king of Wakanda.
Right.
You can go, but my son is staying.
Yeah.
I don't care. But this is the problem that we have, and this is where we're seeing the gynocentrism playing out in the revisionist history. And that's the slap in the face and then this hurting. And like all, you know, and just the Mary Sueism, like the stabbing of Siri, but you know, Killmonger, a trained special forces. All those bumps and whelps are for the people that he's killed. You know, he beat the hell out of T'Challa. You know, and you know, come on. But Siri, somehow she can beat a 500-year-old warrior. Now we all know we're comic heads. Namor ain't no joke. Namor has fought the Hulk. Namor has fought Hercules. Namor has fought Thor. Namor is, if you go through all comic lore, Namor and the Atlanteans in Marvel are a warlike tribe. Even Aquaman in DC, they are a warlike race. But somehow this 115-pound chick that has this tech suit on, and like Artisan says, these kitty blaster mittens can fight him. But she just clips his wing on his ankle, and somehow she starts getting the best of him.
Right.
Can I ask Malik a question?
Yes, good brother.
Hey, bro, what do you think about the whole Shuri vehemently denying ever seeing Killmonger in the ancestral plane and having that discussion?
It's bullshit because I didn't see the movie.
Okay. Sorry.
I did not see the movie. But my thing is,
I want you to get your point.
Can I ask that question to the guys?
Wait. We got a couple other brothers that have been waiting in line, so I want to get Malika to kind of finish his
my
point.
thing is for her, I can understand her story arc is the revenge and getting over the death of her brother, her mother, and her people. Fine, that's a cool story arc. But here's the thing. She's not worthy of that mantle. She did not work for it. Just like Ray did not work for it. I can understand it came under duress. But still at the same time, you know, the way you're saying, not working for it. You're pushing it on just the way they're pushing Riri. Okay, she's a genius. She's this, she's that. But the convenience, like I forgot what Artisan said. He created this phrase, the beautiful, the bright, and something. He just came up with this phrase that somehow these women just somehow, boom, they got it. Whereas we as men, we got to fight for it.
Stunning, beautiful, and brave, or strong, beautiful, and brave. That's always the three that they got to be.
and the thing is, you know, even when, you know, Robert Downey in the Sherlock Holmes movie, work. Even though he was brilliant, but work. There's no sweat equity.
Right. Let me go ahead and get Kofa in. Kofa wanted to drop some words on this. Kofa, go ahead and give us your thoughts on this.
Peace, everybody. Can you hear me, Doc?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, so y'all brothers have covered a lot, man. I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit more on the Woman King Part 2. This is the quickest sequel I've ever seen come out in my life. This is the Woman King Part 2. But you guys really hit on that piece about little T'Challa. It's something I talk about in this manosphere space all the time. It's crazy how many boys are just inundated with estrogen on a daily basis. So you got the single mother trope, then you got the auntie trope, then you got the extra aunties, mama's homegirls, which is the Dora Milaje. So you know, we all see it like, where the hell did all the men go? Like after after the first movie. Like, and essentially we've lost 3 kings of Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
We lost T'Chaka in Civil War. Then we got T'Challa. Then we lost Killmonger, you know, at the end of that movie when they fighting for the mantle. And then, you know, of course, you know, in real life we lose Chadwick Boseman, RIP, but we lost a third king back to back to back.
Right.
So who is going to teach this young man how to just sit on the throne? And like the RIP again to I think the older lady that's on the council.
Oh yeah.
Movie, you know, she passed in real life earlier this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but swinging back to the first movie, she said, you know, we don't need a hero. We need a king. We need somebody to sit on this throne and, you know, essentially rule the kingdom, which is true to African culture. And then it's interesting too because I was really looking at the I don't want to call them the Atlanteans, but y'all know who I'm talking about.
Alacons,
the Talokans or whoever. It just bothered the hell out of me when he injected that. Those that seen the movie, when he injected that to Shuri, when he was like, well, you know, we've been fighting against these people. We've been going through the same thing for all these years. When he was talking about the slavery piece, when he went back to bury his mom. I don't know if you guys peeped that when he was basically saying, hey, basically we were slaves too. The same type of trope they hit us with every, you know, midterm election, presidential election type of thing. Hold on. Then we like I said, we've lost these kings and we've lost the queen. And you telling me you're not gonna ride, you finna make peace with these people? That just strips that pure Africanness out of us. And I think Malik was just saying that to people that are impressionable by the media, is going to plant that seed in there, and we're going to keep going through the same thing again and again and again, where it's like, okay, we've lost our heads of state to just blatant murder, and we're not finna ride.
Right.
We're just going to cultivate peace. And the last two things, real quick, Doc. Did anybody that's seen the movie notice that lesbian kiss between the two doors?
Right.
So again, they're
yes, unfortunately, I did.
And that was like the cherry on the top. Like, okay, first of all, ain't no damn man, ain't no strong man, because M'Baku was like basically a shell of himself from the first movie, and he has the strongest warriors, you know, supposedly. But like you said, these guys are holding strings so these chicks can bungee jump and fight off the side of a ship. And then it leads you to think, okay, if all the men were there fighting, the handful of men that wanted to fight, what was going on back in Wakanda? Because everybody that wanted to fight was on a ship. So you just left the kingdom open. It just didn't make sense. And just, I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna pass the mic. DC question, just for the panel in general. Who do you think should play Green Lantern? Because I was gonna say Aldous Hodge, but they already cast him as Hawkman. And then it's kind of ironic, like you said, with the new movie that came out, he's the actual voice of the character on the DC cartoon. That's him. That's his voice.
Okay.
So, but he's Hawkman. So just.
Do you think they can get Michael Jai White?
I think he'd be too old. I don't know. I would want to go younger. I would want to go with God. What's man? The brother that was in one of the Purge remakes, dark skinned dude.
I'm not sure.
But I know you talk about the brother that was on Insecure.
Yeah. I think he'll be a good fit, but that's just my
well, I'll say there's two things real quick. The lesbian kiss is more complicated than that because the actor or whatever for that character Annika is Marvel's first trans actor. So they really pumped that up a few months ago. So
Which one was that? Was that the
Annika, the one who
Nika,
Nika, the guy who got the suit with Midnight Angel or whatever? That character is a trans character, trans actor, right? So you're working in not just the lesbian angle, you're also working in the trans angle, and Marvel was kind of celebrating this. So you have all those elements in it, but how many stable, what would you call it, functional heterosexual relationships did you get to see in Wakanda?
Yeah, and that was my other thing too, with going back to the first movie with Nakia. Like here you like you're the king's chick, but y'all broke up, and
Right, right, right,
it's so
right.
stereotypical of the trope. Like you
Right.
literally chose your career
Exactly.
over sitting on the throne, and you literally chose being a single mama over throne. There is no way in hell this man is like, hey, you need to go live on the other side of the world,
Right,
and
right, right.
not tell my mama and my sister that you pregnant right now because now's not a good time for me. Like, there's no way in hell that happened. So for them to write that in the movie and just put that in there, just again, like Malika said, it's just blatant disrespect. That's a slap in the face.
Well, I'm going to do, so what we're going to do, I'm going to make a quick statement, and then we're going to go to KT, because I guess I cut KT off before he got to finish his point. Then we're going to go to Chaos and Enigma. But I'll just say the idea of Michael Jai White is not bad. Michael, first of all, always stays in shape. And the one version of the Black Green Lantern I've never seen is an old grizzled soldier who knows how to fight, who's had years in the military. I'd actually be interested in seeing Michael Jai White playing that kind of Green Lantern. I've never seen that before. I think it'd be.
Well, he's already in the DC universe too.
I want him back as Spawn though. That's my thing.
You talking about? Hold on. You talking about in Batman though? Dark Knight?
Yeah. I mean, he's already like done business with DC.
Twofold. He's dead, and that I don't know if that's considered the same universe as all it is. So anyway, but let's go ahead. Let's go to KT, and then we're going to go to Chaos and Enigma. Go ahead, KT. Finish your point. Oh, did we lose him? My bad. Damn, he dropped out. My bad. Okay, so we'll go to Chaos and then Enigma. Chaos Reign, you there?
I'm here. Yeah, this is a very good start, personally, of a lot of movies. I think DC got something going now. I was waiting on this. Normally, we should be talking about the Black Panther, which I did watch today, which I said I was going to watch, and I got my own feelings about it. Personally, at the end of it, we all know they're going to make another one. I'm not sure how it's going to unfold now. Maybe it's going to some tie into this resurge of the Avengers. Who knows? Personally, Namor was very faux. I can't see anything else moving forward with the comics because I don't read the Black Panther comics. But now that you don't have no male Black Panther, I'm not sure where you could take it moving forward. Some people feel that this movie is going to probably do well. Some say it's going to flop. We'll know in a month. But I tell you, I could do the same numbers it did 4 years ago. That's for sure. Okay. If the guy was still around and he, let's say, battled Namor, I guarantee they would have made an extra bill or two or close to it. See, so I'm more focused now that this wraps up the season of phase, I think 4 or whatever, the Marvel. So now moving forward on the first or second month of February, we're gonna see a black enemy by what's the name, Krang the Killer.
Kang, yeah, Conqueror.
Yeah, we gotta see how this black villain plays out in this next phase with the Ant and the Wasp person, because I don't know much about Kang, but it looks like he might be very much a person to be reckoned with. All right.
Okay. All right. Enigma, you want to drop a word in on this?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Peace to everybody. I just got back from seeing that debacle of a movie, and I share your sentiments, Dr. T, and I share your sentiments, Artisan. I have a son, and I absolutely will not take him to see that movie because you're telling me someone who holds family dear and seeing how his cousin Killmonger grew up, that he's going to repeat the same process all over again for his son.
Right.
And then not only that, in the movie, they compared MIT, one of the best institutions in the nation, to a Wakandan grade school.
Right.
So you're going to take your son from the safest, most educated country in the entire world. And my wife, born and raised in Haiti. She told me how it was there. And you're going to take him to the most dangerous country, one of the most dangerous countries in the world. That's where you're going to raise your son. That is utter foolishness. And then on top of that, Shuri does not have any battlefield experience. You see, if they would have let that battle play out, Namor would have been killed, but all the other Wakandan warriors would have been killed as well. Because at the end, when they flew in on the ship, and he was saying in their native language that the battle was over, they had all of the Wakandans surrounded. They would have been slaughtered. And they didn't have nobody in the mainland. They took their best warriors to go out there.
Right.
In the Wakanda right there. That was a slap in the face, man. Like, I'm with Artisan on this one. You won't see. I will not go to see a third one, man. I'm done. Because what they have done was the equivalent of taking Batman, right? You take Batman, and you have not Dick Grayson take over. You have Spoiler taking over, Stephanie Robinson, and you let her be Batman and almost get the entire Bat family killed.
No, Enigma, you have Batman take over. No, Enigma, you don't have Stephanie take over. You have Batmite take over.
Well, at least Batmite has powers. But anyway, I'm just. It's funny that we talking about this on Veterans Day, on how anybody can be a warrior. So what? You don't need training. You don't need fortitude. You don't need experience. You can be Black Panther too, just because you visualize it. What's this bullshit that women are doing now? Like, we're gonna manifest a man. We're gonna manifest the Black Panther cow. Like,
what they did was they just forklifted Steve Rogers into Shuri. It's like, okay, you don't have to have shit, but we're gonna give you the super soldier serum, and then now you're the baddest motherfucker around.
And see, that's the difference between Shuri and Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers had the skills. He had the heart. He had the courage. He had the commitment. It's just, his physical frame did not hold up to what his heart would do. She was not a warrior. This is not the same Shuri that was in the comics. Steve willingly was, when they threw the grenade out there, what did Steve do?
Yeah, he jumped on it. But where was he? Where was he when he jumped on it?
He was at the training facility, at the basic training facility.
He was in boot camp.
Yeah.
He had at least signed up to be trained as a soldier, even without the physical skills. She been in a lab. How does that work?
And then I think you got to remember in the comics, when the super soldier serum is depowered in Steve still has those skills, and he cripples people with those skills without the super soldier serum. You're talking about a guy with over 100 years of fighting experience.
But you know what? We going back to the same thing, Charles. We're showing men work. Keyword work.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is the difference. And also, here's another thing. Within the work and within the hero's journey, as the hero is training in skills, like they showed, George Lucas was a genius because in The Empire Strikes Back, when he goes to Yoda, he still fails, and Yoda is saying, "You care too much. You have too many problems going on in your head. You need to get that out, and you need to train." The thing is, this is where the men have to understand the biggest thing, that within understanding the hero's journey, your purpose is bigger than you. And what you have to do, you have to get over yourself in order to get to where you need to go. This is the problem we see in these movies when you're dealing with this woke culture and you're seeing this womanist tropes of women as heroes. These women don't get over themselves.
Well, they kind of lean toward that in this one, where she kind of begins. That's where, when Artisan was pointing out she sees her mother, that was kind of one of the things her mother was kind of pushing on her, where it had to be beyond herself, or whatnot. But I agree with you in terms of how this is structured overall. It's not a regular and consistent part of the story, because when they do these women characters, they don't really employ the hero's journey. They don't.
Mhm.
They
They do that.
and it's kind of reminiscent of how men and women kind of engage the world. I mean, men have to become something to gain notoriety.
Mhm.
Women wake up one day and they can have babies. I mean,
You know, they're human beings. We're human doings.
You know
Yeah.
what's crazy, Doc, is that overall, this really shows you take the king out of the way and you see how the kingdom falls. It fell into chaos.
Exactly.
There's no man on the throne. There's no discipline, right, wrong, or indifferent. Either way, when it was T'Challa or it was Killmonger, there was a direction they were going.
right.
Whether it was T'Challa's version of peace or Killmonger's like, hey, we finna go get the shit back we should have had from jump,
Right.
collectively, globally, as a African, descendant people, there was a direction that Wakanda was going in, right, wrong, or indifferent again. But now there's no king sitting on that throne, and everything's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Like the black community.
I'm just gonna say this. It's funny, right? Because when we talk about men, there's only one word with an S that men always understand. It's not strength. It's not success. It's sacrifice.
Mhm.
Every time I see these women in films, what the hell do they sacrifice?
Mm.
Go to Man of Steel, which is a classic. Superman had to literally sacrifice his identity that the world is going to hunt him down or treat him different. He had to sacrifice this. You're out here now, and people are going to be looking at you. What did Batman sacrifice? What
Well,
even,
they did reference
you know
one
what was so
sacrifice.
wonderful? You know what was so wonderful about the Wonder Woman film? Is that you saw the sacrifice she had to make because she's a superhero that she earned the title to be Wonder Woman.
Mhm.
But no, you'll never hear feminists talk about that movie. Never hear it.
Yeah.
She had to earn the right to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there is no what did Sherry sacrifice? What did you
Well, I think
sacrifice? It was your brother who had to do all the heavy. Even think about the trope right now, and I know it's gonna dawn on people and hit you in the head like a cartoon anvil. She was not even fit to sit on the throne of Wakanda after her mother died.
Fact. Big fact.
I think one sacrifice that they did show, to be fair though, is and it was actually one of the things I vehemently disliked about the first movie, and was actually directly referenced in this movie, was Okoye. They, how they directly referenced Okoye emasculating Daniel Kaluuya in the first movie. They said, when she was getting fired from the Dora Milaje, she's like, I sacrificed everything, and then the older gentleman on the council directly referenced, said, hey, this woman put a spear to her husband. So I think at least in Okoye coming back to be Midnight Angel, I like that part. I gotta be fair. I like Okoye's art.
I gotta give opposite opinion. I actually like that they referenced it for the simple fact it mirrors what's going on in the community right now. I'll use the word community loosely. We'll sacrifice our men for the good of the community, like we're not a part of the community.
Exactly.
But
it's not for the good of the community, though.
That's what I'm saying. But that's exactly what I'm saying.
Wow.
We'll sacrifice our men for the good of the quote unquote community because we're not seen as part of that. I did take one of Doc's phrases. We're emotional tampons. We're these ConcuServes again. So she, hey man, wait a minute. Now she put her husband. She's willing to sacrifice her husband's life for the good of Wakanda.
Wow.
And then you see now, where the fuck are the men? That whole river tribe is gone because of that one man's quote unquote indiscretion, where he was truly just following his king at the time, because Killmonger won fair and square. He was following his king's orders at the time. Now his whole tribe is gone, or they're outcasted.
At least the men.
Yeah.
But you know what also called for with sacrifice? You know who really, really suffered within the second movie? T'Challa Jr. His birthright was sacrificed.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing. The women allowed it. And you're going to say that T'Challa did that, but he's gone. We don't have it. You're the same because it's written in there. because you and I know, and any man knows from how the way the character that was represented with Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa through the movie in the MCU, he would never send his child off.
Yeah.
No. And the funny thing is, where you're realizing, and this is a funny thing, when you do some simp stuff, like how the way Prince Harry, he sacrificed his birthright to be with some Strad. And this is where you see this. You see this with Thor sacrificing his birthright.
Yeah.
You know, showing this writing of emasculate. Like when you're not allowing a man to have his birthright, that's an internal and external emasculation hitting you at the same time. That's saying you don't deserve this. No, you don't have this. But then at the same time, we're going to allow Suri. Okay, she's the next one there. But the thing is, she didn't fight for it. At least Killmonger came to fight for it.
Yeah, and he mentioned that in the Ancestral realm. I forgot, one of the brothers asked earlier, you know, what do we make of that, of her not mentioning that she saw Killmonger, because she knew he was right. And it was, again, I just look for those little subtle...
You know what that is, brother? That's a woman admitting to accountability.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I noticed those little subtle nuances where it's like, I don't have to do what a man tell me to do. Like those little slights that they throw in there. And he asked her a direct question. Are you going to be noble like your brother, or are you going to handle business like me?
You know, when I look at T'Challa Jr., God, I can't. Anyway,
you leave 3 years alone, man.
TJ.
One of the things I see symbolically with this is it reminds me of black men here in the United States. It really does, in terms of the lack of legacy, the lack of support. You know what I mean? And especially when you introduce the single mother element, it just takes me back symbolically to us. And he doesn't have a real leg to stand on in this respect. So I hope it's dealt with carefully, but I've lost so much faith in a lot of this, man. I might just watch it on Disney Plus when they do a third one, just because, but we're at the 3-hour mark. So we're going to close it down. You don't have to give a closing thought if you don't want to, but I do want to, give if you choose to, give a brief closing thought to this, so we can transition out. So, anybody want to start that off?
I'll start it off. I'll just say this: as a son who happens to be a junior, as a son who happens to be a third, my father never left me even after the divorce. He still searched out, even when my mother kept us away from him for almost 2 years. See, those are little stories also fault that's going to have to do Patreon for.
There we go. There we go. And if you have a channel before you close out, tell people how to find you. But go ahead and finish your thought.
And by the way, as a father, I made, and I want everybody's ears to listen real, I made damn sure that my son was going to be with me. If you couldn't take him to school, if you're too tired, you're too lazy, give him to me. We ain't going to no damn courts. I think that was shameful and disrespectful to the image of black men, especially in America, but everywhere, to say that a man is going to rob his child of their birthright and the knowledge of what they are and who they are.
Right.
There is no damn way I'm not going to allow and teach my son not to be a better king than me.
Right.
So I don't know, and I'm going to say this: I'm going to have to struggle to go see this damn movie. I'm not even going to call it a movie. I'm going to call it an abomination.
Yeah.
Black men, we still got work to do. It's not just about the election. It's about politics, business, and perception. We need to speak up and speak out against this. Black Manosphere forever. Woo!
Yeah. Tell people how to find you before you leave. How to find your channel.
You can find me from a place, fresh off of, never mind. But you can find me at Charles Faulkner Jr. and come over there and converse with your boy while we smoking cigars with our liquor. Whoa! Always a pleasure, Doctor.
Thanks a lot, man. That's here on YouTube. Search out Charles Faulkner Jr. Support the channel. Who's up next?
I got it, Doc. I'm just wrap up real quick. It's interesting. He made a Officer Faulkner made a reference to the politics because that election just happened here in Georgia. You know, I'm in Atlanta, so the whole Stacey Abrams debacle, black men already getting blamed and stuff like that. But it's interesting she ran on that campaign of pushing for immigration, and then sitting here watching the movie with Namor's people, and again he mentions to Namora, hey, we could have killed them or whatnot, but I made an alliance because guess what? Basically the black people are going to look out for us. They'll take the brunt from the surface world people first before they come down here and bother us. So I just throwing that back in there real quick. I don't know if anybody noticed that other sprinkled in trope again. But to the fatherhood piece, my grandfather wasn't there for my dad, and I have a dope dad, and we had a serious conversation about fatherhood one day, and he asked me, he was like, how I became such a good dad? And I was like, no, how? And he was like, I did the opposite of what your granddad did.
Right.
It's not hard. And looking back, my grandfather tried to make up for a lot of stuff that he missed out with my dad with me, because me and my granddad was tight, and I still think it bothers my father to this day. So that's not typically something we do as black men, to just pass our legacy off to someone else, even if it is the mother. And it's interesting in the movie, the young man knew how to speak Wakandan and stuff like that. So it gave that trope again of, hey, you know what? My dad wasn't here, so but mama got it handled. Same thing with T'Challa Senior. Hey, I didn't really have my dad. The T'Challa we got in the film, I didn't have my dad, but look, I still ended up being king. So here, take my son halfway across the world.
Right.
But this needs a part 2, Doc. Just throwing that out there.
Hey man, I appreciate you, man. Tell people how to find you, bro.
It's Growth Talk with Kofa on YouTube.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate y'all, brothers.
Appreciate you. Who's up next?
Do you mind if I step up?
Go ahead.
Black male imagery and symbolism needs to be shown in media, period. Positive black male imagery, masculine black male imagery. This movie, even though I didn't see it, and from what you're saying and what you gentlemen say, it's like Charles says, abomination. It's a slap in the face. And it's like, wow, really?
Right.
This is, and we see it today, and we're Gen Xers. We had to fight for having a level of representation. Now it's just this laissez-faire, passive bullshit, bitch ass faggoty. Oh, okay. No, you're a man. I'm a man. When we see, the thing is, when we see this, T'Challa, see, we had pages, we had tactile pages, and seeing that meant something. Like how you said, T'Challa was a perfect built man. He was a king. He was an intellectual. He was a politician. He could fight with his mind, his words, as well as his body. But the one thing that he cared about first and foremost was his job as being a king. He just wasn't an avenger or superhero. That was something that came along. He was a king. His regalness and this was something that was passed down a lineage. When anytime you look up what Black Panther was, they say that's the mantle. That is a mantle and a title. And you kind of realize, and you hear mantle and title. Wow, that's something that means something. And he carried that with pride. That's the problem that we don't have. See, the thing is, there's no pride. There's no respect. There's no standing of this pure being a man. And we need to have that. And I'm glad we're having forums like this that we're talking about this. And I'm glad that, the passion that Artisan speaks and the intellectual passion that you speak. And we can all come to this and we can speak to this. And there are younger brothers out there and you have your son that you could tell him like, yo, this is some bullshit. And I'm kind of glad your son said, I ain't gonna see that bullshit. Nah, man. But the thing is, you're putting the seeds in his head that he's realizing, and he can see on the commercial, say, it looks nice, but where the dudes at?
Mm.
So, like I said, black male imagery and symbolism, positive black masculine male imagery and symbolism has to be prevalent.
Mm. Yeah. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me, brother.
All right. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I can jump in. I just wanted to say closing thoughts, just like Kofa and Malika just said, the pacifism. But I think it's by design. You know, we talked about earlier about Okoye standing down her husband, and Shuri denying the Killmonger spirit. But even at the end, I thought there was a completely unnecessary thrown in scene of Shuri overpowering M'Baku in an arm wrestling match for what?
Oh yeah.
They just had to show that overpowering the male energy. And I think like I said before, this is just the Africanism in me, is that the overall, I just get this overall energy from both movies of pacifism in the face of aggression from neo-colonization.
Okay.
And it's even Shuri is fighting it within herself, because even at the beginning of the movie, she's sitting with Angela Bassett and she's saying, when I think about T'Challa, I want to burn the world down. And that's when Namor came to her and said, hey, I heard you. I heard you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I heard you. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Yeah.
And what ends up happening, she has to fight Namor. So again, it's we're going to fight amongst each other instead of fighting the real, addressing the real problems of why we're facing this. And, that's why the movie really rubs me wrong. That even just getting past the gender stuff. Okay. I don't like the overall pacifism in the face of aggression tropes that goes on in both Black Panther movies.
Okay. Much appreciated. You raised a significant point, real quick about M'Baku and that moment. On one end, I looked at it like, okay, she's showing everybody she does have the power of the Panther, but on just a purely representational level, you're right. That need to show a dominance over Black men, particularly the largest, strongest Black men. It just wasn't the average everyday brother. It was M'Baku,
right.
And for her to dominate him is a statement in and of itself. So you're absolutely right. But I appreciate you coming through, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Who's up next? Chaos, Enigma. One of you guys want to give some closing thoughts?
Yes, I'll give some closing thoughts. Thank you, Dr. T. What I want to give a closing thought on is how the film does mirror exactly what's going on in the community, because of Shuri relying on technology now and how they walked away from traditionalism, just like the community has walked away from traditionalism and starts leaning towards other things. And look what happened. You have everything that's going on now. Everybody's fighting amongst one another, and there's no sense of unity whatsoever. I appreciate you having me up here, and I continue to support everybody in the manosphere, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon.
All right, man. Appreciate you coming up. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Chaos, man. Give us your closing thoughts, man.
I think the best is really yet to come. With a lot of comic book movies. I think watching the Black Adam, to me, I haven't watched much DC movies in a long time, but it brings a resurgence back to the possibilities of seeing some real masculinity being put back in cinematography, especially how the Rock told the single mother that where is his father? Why is someone teach him? The boy has the potential to be a warrior, and the mother chose not to even instill it into his son.
Right.
And that is very problematic. But as you know, it's something that's a learning lesson to a lot of men that watches any movie that has these real authentic messages. That is something that we have to take consideration, the importance of. We have to really get control and really bring back fatherhood back to some of our sons again, personally, because you see what's going on now. Now that the people are paying money and seeing this weirdo-ness where, even with the movie that I just saw with the Black Panther, that said this boy's going to grow up to have no structure, basically. If the time comes, if he does want to uphold the throne, what type of future king will he be? He's not raised and groomed in Wakanda at all. Period. He's on rules, and it's funny how they chose Haiti out of all places. Imagine that, a place that fought against white supremacy and won. Very odd. Don't anybody find it very odd?
Yeah. No, and yet Wakanda doesn't carry on that legacy. It's an interesting point.
Interesting point. Something to look at. Yeah. Subscribe to Chaos Rain channel. Thank you. Take care.
There we go. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming through, man. Artisan.
Yes,
you gotta close us out, and you gotta tell people how they can hear more and what you're gonna do in the next few days or whatnot.
Well, first I want to say thank you for this stream, inviting me up to talk about this, because we talked at length yesterday night about this.
Right.
And I did say on my reaction that I knew you were going to go in on this in your own way, the only way that you could. And that's what I like, having all these brothers up here and hearing what they had to say, because we all bring different things to bear when we look at it with our own eyes.
Right.
We get a better sense of what's going on in the whole, we can bring all those perspectives to bear in that situation. And just listening to the brothers, I didn't even think about it when I threw it out there, how much that would actually affect brothers, the fact that T'Challa had a son that he just sent away and left.
Yeah.
And seeing how that really resonates with brothers, like, hell no, that wouldn't happen. That does fly in the face of everything that this character was in just the last movie.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have did that.
Yeah.
So they basically took Wakanda, which would have been the pinnacle or the aspiration of what the Black community could be, and turned it into just what the Black community is. Single mother farm, a bunch of women running around acting tough. Wow, this is the downgrade. This is not the most advanced community, in the world anymore. I guess, people gonna catch up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate you running the stream and putting your thoughts out there about it, and inviting me up, inviting the other brothers up. Respect to everybody, because this does need to be seen. And like I said, we need to go over it like game film to understand what is actually being pumped out there, what the messages actually are being pumped in this movie, so you understand it and it's real for you. It's not just, a supposition by somebody else. It is your own experience with this stuff that gets you to understand how important it is that you have to be speaking against this from a position of knowledge and not a position of, well, I got partly of some information. You have to know this for yourself. This is not anything you can sit back on, because I said it last night, I'll say it again tonight. I worry about Mahershala Ali being Blade in this MCU right now.
Okay.
Since that first script was crap, it was set. Look, walk away if this next one ain't. If this next one ain't on par, walk away. I'm not. I really can't endorse. I really can't look forward to any black male being in an MCU film right now, because I'm waiting for the BS to happen. This just happened to T'Challa, the premier black male character in Marvel Comics. This is what they just did to him. What do you think the rest of them gonna get? Easier time? I'm like, geez, dude. I mean, what? Like, why do we need to see a Blade? The leaks out there what the original script was. Like, it's a ripoff of something else, and he was gonna get killed and moved out the way for his daughter to take his role. Like, so Shuri all over again? Oh my god, dude, what? What? I'll just pull it back. I'll just say that you need to understand what's going on and actually see it some kind of ways. Surf the high seas, do what you got to do. Make sure you see it, make sure you are informed about what is going on, what messaging was put out in this movie. I'm
Right.
telling you.
Right.
Learn to cast the characters, not the ones that's acting and saying lines. Learn to cast the characters, the people behind the scenes, your
Right.
executives, your writers, your producers, the people who actually, promote this stuff and how they marketed it. You need to know who these people are so you can make sure when they on another project, you know what they up to. You know what. So that's my deal on it. So appreciate you, Dr. T.
Hey, man.
Go ahead, close this out.
Well, thanks a lot, man. I just want to say real quick before you bounce, one of the thoughts, because I heard about, T'Challa Jr. Before I saw the film. So I was already processing it. And one of the thoughts I had is, I was like, why did they do it? This is what led me to believing this was a last minute thing, because you could have pulled a growing up Rocky montage where he's a grown man at any point in the film. You really could have. And he could have been trained. He could have been around a number of different people. All of that could have happened, in the midst of all of this. But instead, you threw this last 3-minute, clip at the end with this, little kid. And I'm like, this could have been done a lot of different ways. So it just leads me to believe it was a last minute addition. But you still could have had T'Challa, even years later, like kind of like Heru. Avenge his father, avenge his family, and save Wakanda from Namor. You could have had that. Namor's ageless, apparently. So anyway, well, go ahead. What were you about to say?
He could have been. I mean, just for me, if we wanted to take that he could have aged up in this and been, able to fight in this one. He could have been 16 in this. It's been 6 years since he had left, and Panther and Shuri was snapped away for 5 years. He could have been a whole 16-year-old right next to Riri Williams in this one.
Absolutely.
She could have got pregnant after Civil War or Black Panther #1, Infinity War. Babies popped out. 5-year gap. Another 6 years on top of that. He would have been a teenager right now. Everybody would have went crazy for that. Like, oh, it's a teenage Black Panther, T'Challa Jr.
And
people would have liked that.
And if he'd have popped
but
up,
yeah, I think this was stuck in at the end. This was a caboose.
And if he would have popped up after Shuri gets a spear to the gut, it would have been an interesting, heroic moment to see, right? But anyway, man, appreciate you coming through, man. You have a good one.
Oh, I forgot to mention Artisan MC on YouTube, and I do subscribe to the channel because I do random live streams, but the main one is every Sunday at 11 a.m. So, throw that in there.
So y'all support it, check it out. Yeah, that's what's up. Have a good one, man.
You too. Peace, Dr. T.
Peace, man. Right. So shout out to all of y'all that supported. This is what we needed to do. I hope to hear the conversation continue, or see the conversation continue in the chat. Hear your ideas, hear your thoughts. What did you think about what you heard? If you didn't see the movie, what you thought about it? If you did, what could have been better? How it could have been better? I'm curious to hear all of that. But thank you guys for supporting, and y'all have a good night. All right. Oh, real quick, I was asked about my theater experience, and I saw the question come up a couple times. You got to understand, I got a small, well, it's not even really small, but I got a new movie theater that ain't far from the house that not a lot of people have discovered yet. So there's not a lot of people in there. So I can go see a brand new movie on the day it comes out, and the theater is not particularly full, no matter what it is, because people don't even really know the theater's up yet. So what I saw was a mixed bag of people. It was mostly Latino and white. There was no applause at the end. Matter of fact, there were a couple of older white folk who were cussing, and I don't know why. So, but the point I'm getting at, though, is I didn't get the typical theater experience that others may have, so I couldn't tell you how it resonated in other spaces. But that said, y'all have a good night. Talk to y'all later. Peace.